this young man woke up to find an egg floating right in front of him. Xiao Lun assumed he was hallucinating after staying up for over 3 hours playing games the night before. However, he soon realized he could see eggs above everyone else's heads as well. The only difference was that while theirs were white, Xiao Lun's was pitch black. Furthermore, a countdown timer was ticking away on the egg, which felt incredibly surreal. He worried it might be some kind of explosive device that would leave nothing left of him. In class, his friend Li Yan suddenly invited Xiao Lun to go out tonight, mentioning that a senior named Yao Tian had found a massive egg and wanted everyone to join him for a feast. Suspecting this might be related to the black egg above his own head, Xiao Lun agreed to go. By 7 p.m. sharp, the group had gathered at West City Park. The young man with the middle-parted hair was Yao Xiao, the one who had invited them. However, Xiao Lun suddenly noticed that he was the only person in the group without an egg above his head. Soon, they reached a massive wall. This wall had existed since Xiao Lun was born, encircling the entire world. Legend had it that anyone who successfully scaled the wall would reach the world beyond. Once there, the group urged Yao Tian to show them the giant egg. Instead of answering, he simply gave a sinister smile. A moment later, a red egg emerged from his head, and the horrifying sight sent everyone scrambling away in terror. Before Xiao Lun could get far, 2 ghostly hands sprouted from Yao Tian's back and grabbed him firmly. By then, the red egg atop his head had transformed into a monster. It opened its maw to devour the black egg, but the protagonist's egg was on a completely different level. The black egg swiftly employed a concealment technique, trapping the red egg in a powerful illusion. Immediately after, a pair of razor-sharp wings sprouted from the sides of the black egg. With just a few simple strikes, the red egg was instantly obliterated. Yao Tian's body collapsed along with it, suggesting that if the egg is destroyed, the person dies as well. Xiao Lun was so lost in thought that he failed to notice what was happening behind him. A seed slowly grew from the fragments of the red egg. When the seed fell to the ground, a parasite broke through its shell and crawled out. It stealthily crawled toward Yao Tian's corpse and quickly burrowed into his leg. Yao Tian's body, which had been lying motionless, began to change. Suddenly, the body convulsed violently. To Xiao Lun's utter disbelief, the corpse stood up and stared at him with eyes full of pure hatred. A cold shiver ran down Xiao Lun's spine as he broke into a cold sweat. He suddenly noticed that after being resurrected, a hole resembling a keyhole had appeared on Yao Tian's chest. Looking up, he saw the countdown on his black egg was still ticking. He forced a bitter smile, feeling so overwhelmed he could faint. With time running out, he honestly just wanted to give up and lie down. Dark clouds began to gather in the sky as Yao Tian approached, shrouded in a sinister red aura. Your egg is pitch black," he muttered. "It's not like ours, you must be an aberrant." Xiao Lun took a step back, confused. "An aberrant? What are you talking about? Can't you say something I actually understand?" Yao Tian's expression darkened as he tilted his head slowly. "Human, you must have realized by now that everyone around you possesses a white egg. They are merely food, while I, a red egg, am a red soldier. You, with your black egg, are an aberrant." Xiao Lun looked at his egg and then back at Yao Tian, his mind racing in confusion. "Red soldiers, aberrants? This is all so confusing. I have no idea why my egg is black." Yao Tian's skin turned a sickly pale as he bared his teeth in a grin. "Aberrants can be captured or hunted, but I personally prefer the hunt." With those words, he lunged forward. Xiao Lun was startled as Yao Tian reached him with incredible speed in the blink of an eye. With sharp claws sprouting from his fingers, Yao Tian swung his hand down with great force. Caught off guard, Xiao Lun was slashed by the sharp claws, drawing blood. He lost his balance and tumbled to the ground, finally realizing the danger he was in. Stunned, Xiao Lun looked up at the black egg above him. "Why aren't you doing anything?" he thought in a panic. "Weren't you incredibly powerful just a moment ago?" Seeing his opponent dazed, Yao Tian pulled back his hand and gave a mocking laugh. "Oh, were you actually counting on that thing? That's simply not going to happen." Xiao Lun turned to look at him, unable to believe what he was hearing. Yao Tian grinned, revealing 2 sharp fangs as he continued his explanation. "Our independent egg form, we cannot attack humans unless..." Suddenly agitated, Yao Tian lunged again to merge with the human. Seeing the figure rushing toward him, Xiao Lun quickly dove to the side. White vapor rose from where the claws struck the ground. Yao Tian looked up and glared ahead, but Xiao Lun took advantage of the opening to turn and run for his life. "What is all this? I have no desire to merge with an egg and turn into such a hideous creature." But in the next instant, Yao Tian leaped and appeared behind him, delivering a heavy kick to Xiao Lun's back. Caught off guard, he was kicked flat onto his face as Yao Tian lunged off the ground again, quickly pinning Xiao Lun down with his legs before the boy could rise, his face turning pale as Yao Tian grinned and swung his long claws. "Let me crush your skull." he sneered while cold sweat trickled down Zio Lun's cheek as he turned away in terror. Certain death was near, but then a hazy vortex suddenly manifested before them, causing Yao Tian to freeze mid-motion. How strange, why can't I move all of a sudden? Yao Tian muttered, and Zio Lun, noticing the shift, jumped in surprise as the man's eyes grew vacant, allowing him to shove the villain off and stand up while wondering what on earth he was planning. As the vortex from the black egg retracted, Zio Lun pushed aside his curiosity and bolted, deciding to escape first and think later, sprinting past withered branches without once glancing back. After a long while, he finally noticed his surroundings and realized with confusion that despite running for over half an hour, he still hadn't left the radiation zone, making him wonder if he had lost his way. Something leaped nimbly across the tree branches above while Zio Lun continued his desperate flight below, cursing under his breath and worrying if that man was still pursuing him as his strength began to fail. Someone perched on a branch watched him from above as Njai couldn't hide his excitement, telling his master that the pitch-black entity which froze the soldier ant's time must surely be the world-ending egg. Funan kept his eyes fixed on the scene and cautioned him not to jump to conclusions so easily, advising further observation until the forest eventually fell into a complete silence. Zio Lun finally emerged from the woods and ran straight toward a cave, thinking it was a stroke of luck to find a place to hide and regroup before deciding his next move. Once inside, he leaned against the stone wall and gasped for air, feeling utterly exhausted, yet he couldn't help but stare at the black egg floating in the air with growing curiosity. "That's right, you were the one who froze him earlier, weren't you?" he asked. But then Zio Lun froze in shock as he looked up and saw the timer had dwindled to just 3 minutes. It seemed impossible since there had been plenty of time left before, but as he watched the seconds tick away, he realized that if it exploded like a bomb, he would be in grave danger. Staying here would mean certain death, so he gripped the cave wall and edged his way back toward the entrance, telling himself he had to get away from there immediately. Perhaps it was the extreme panic, but his body felt completely drained of strength, causing him to slump back down and resign himself to his fate, figuring that death would find him regardless of where he went. He lowered his head as the countdown reached 20 seconds, then took a deep breath and suddenly looked up, shouting out loud with newfound defiance. "Fine, if I'm going to die, then let it happen," he yelled, though he couldn't hide his anxiety as he swallowed hard, watching the timer drop from 4 seconds down to 1. Zio Lun's eyes were glued to the black egg until the numbers finally hit 0, prompting him to shield his face and turn away with a terrified cry. "I don't want to die yet," he wailed. But when nothing happened, he peeked through his fingers and saw the black egg's wings folding inward as something began to emerge from within. As black lightning crackled around it, Zio Lun lowered his hands in confusion while dark beams shot into the air, revealing a key that had appeared from inside the egg and leaving him speechless. "What is this? A key?" he wondered as the black egg descended and presented the object to him, its handle pointing forward while Zio Lun stared in disbelief. Wondering if it wanted him to take it, he cautiously reached out and pulled the key from the egg's body with a soft click. The numbers on the egg began to shift again, and to Zio Lun's surprise, the timer reset itself to a full 24 hours. "What's going on? Why did the timer restart?" he asked just as someone approached the cave entrance humming a tune, and though Yao Tian's expression was grim, a stiff smile remained on his face. He continued singing as he neared the cave while Fu Nan and Njai watched from a distance, prompting Njai to ask if they should follow that bold soldier ant inside. Fu Nan immediately ordered them to follow, but warned that they must remain undetected as a heavy silence settled over the interior of the cave. Zio Lun was still dazed and wondering why the timer had reset when he failed to notice Yao Tian entering the cave with wide eyes and a soft chuckle, a sound that made the boy jump in fright. He turned around trembling, horrified to see Yao Tian slowly stepping forward and licking the blood from his claws, remarking on how delicious the scent of human blood was. Zio Lun sighed inwardly with a sense of helplessness, feeling that things were already complicated enough without this man relentlessly pursuing him to the death. His eyes welled up as he looked piteously at the black egg and pleaded for it to help him once more. He promised to fulfill any request if it would just save him from this predicament. Yet the black egg remained completely silent. There was no movement at all until a sudden whoosh echoed, and the black egg spun in midair, pointing one side toward the key in Zio Lun's hand. Its other side pointed toward the black hole in Yao Tian's chest, who spoke in disbelief. "What? You're still in egg form, yet you dare to attack someone who has merged with a human." With those words, he impatiently swung his claws through the air, mocking the idea as a daydream, while Zio Lun's eyes widened, unable to react in time. He thought to himself, "Black egg, do you want me to insert this key into the lock on his chest?" Only then did the egg nod, and Zio Lun gripped the key tightly, whispering that he understood before turning his gaze back. Yao Tian spoke provocatively again, asking when he had acquired such a large key and if he intended to use that cheap toy to attack him. But Zhao Lun remained focused solely on the keyhole on the man's chest. Then he sprinted forward with a burst of speed as Yao Tian closed his eyes and exhaled, finding the situation laughable just as Zhao Lun lunged with the key. Yao Tian leaned to the side, easily dodging the strike, before swinging his leg and delivering a kick that sent Zhao Lun flying into a nearby cliffside. He winced in pain, feeling conflicted because the man's movements were so swift that getting close was difficult, while Yao Tian stood before him, triumphantly spreading his arms. Approaching with a smirk, he mocked the human's stupidity for using such a slow weapon that couldn't possibly injure him, while Zhao Lun bit his lip as a spark of determination returned to his eyes. It seemed the villain truly hadn't noticed the lock on his own body, which meant there was still a chance, so he quietly set the key down. Zhao Lun forced himself to stand and loudly provoked his opponent, claiming the ragged weapon was useless and that his own fists were far more effective. "Come at me, you useless soldier," he taunted, which instantly enraged Yao Tian, who lunged forward and tightly gripped Zhao Lun's throat. "Who are you calling useless?" he snarled while scratching at the boy's face. But Zhao Lun seized the moment to grab the key and shout for the black egg to pelt him with stones. Startled, Yao Tian turned to look, allowing Zhao Lun to thrust the key directly into the hole in his chest. As Yao Tian looked down in shock, Nan, who was watching from behind the cliff, realized things had taken a turn as a glow emerged from the lock. A stream of blue energy began to spill out into the air, leaving Zhao Lun wide-eyed with shock as a blue light like a falling droplet hit the ground, and his body was uncontrollably pulled in by a powerful force. He woke up with a start to find his surroundings completely transformed, surrounded by massive spheres and a bizarre, pitch-black entity standing before him. Zhao Lun demanded to know what was happening, but Nan suddenly rushed over, grabbing his arm and whispering a stern warning to him. "You fool, don't speak so loudly, hide now," Nan hissed, and a stunned Zhao Lun instinctively followed him until they were both concealed behind a large boulder. Fan Luo approached from a distance, his voice echoing as he asked Tino's if he had heard something, to which Tino's nodded, saying he heard a faint noise like a crawling insect, while Zhao Lun covered his mouth in shock. As the massive forms of Fan Luo and Tino's walked past, he thought in terror about the giants and wondered what was going on. The two of them silently watched as the giant figures faded into the distance, and only then did Zhao Lun lower his hand and exhale, trembling at how terrifying it was. He wondered where they were and why they had suddenly appeared there, prompting him to look down at the key he was still holding. "Wait, this key is what brought me here, isn't it?" he asked, looking up to see the black egg nodding in confirmation, which caused his face to turn pale as he sighed in frustration. "Good grief, why can't I just live a normal, peaceful life instead of being dragged to this godforsaken place?" he lamented. Nan watched him with a suspicious gaze, and sensing the stare, Zhao Lun snapped out of his thoughts and turned to see the man observing him intently. He thought to himself that the boy had actually managed to space jump into the world of giants, recalling that someone had brought him here once before, though the memories were quite hazy. Ignoring the boy, he remained lost in thought, realizing the place felt familiar and was likely the gathering grounds for the giants. Zhao Lun bit his lip and started to whisper something, but Nan quickly cut him off, telling him to save it for later and focus on escaping this place first. Zhao Lun quickly agreed, and after their brief pact, they left their hiding spot with Nan leading the way and Zhao Lun following cautiously behind. As he ran, he took the chance to observe his surroundings, wondering what the massive floating spheres were, as he noticed countless dark orbs glowing with strange blue light above them. Fan Nan raised his hand to signal a halt at a certain point, where a sphere in the sky was currently absorbing swirling currents of energy, as Zhao Lun muttered in shock. He wondered if something was about to emerge, while Fan Nan silently realized the gestation sphere was on the verge of birthing. Seconds later, slime oozed from the black opening, and a bizarre form manifested the moment it hit the ground. Crouching behind a boulder, Zhao Lun could not suppress his curiosity about the creature, which appeared to be a shivering, green-skinned merman crawling forward. Zhao Lun gasped at the sight of the faceless merman, while Fan Nan realized it was a human-beast hybrid and noted that since giants were now common, humans were no longer being converted into them before a giant eye appeared behind them. The two froze as Tino slowly stepped out from behind them, growling in a low voice that he had finally found the two little insects playing inside the gestation palace. Tino's immediately swung his razor-sharp claws at Zhao Lun, but Fan Nan reacted quickly by pushing the boy's head down before leaping toward the monster with a blue glow emanating from his hand. Fan Nan swung his arm with agility, striking Tino's with a burst of power, and then glanced back to warn his companion to look out for himself. Zhao Lun scrambled to his feet, and thanked him before taking the chance to flee, lamenting his own weakness and inability to help as he ran. Suddenly, someone snapped their fingers and a projectile streaked past Xiao Lun, wounding him so severely that his strength failed, and he collapsed onto the ground. The black egg was startled to see Fan Lu approaching, while Xiao Lun, his body trembling, felt as though he were sinking underwater amidst flashes of spiraling light, wondering if he was dying. He felt a surge of frustration, unwilling to let his life end before he could find his parents and experience the love that others receive. He pleaded for a chance to know his identity before death took him, and at that moment, an egg shot out from his body, causing Fan Lu to halt in his tracks. Fan Lu stood frozen, his mind racing with irritation as he realized his own body was no longer obeying his commands because of that cursed egg. The black egg began transferring energy into Xiao Lun's unconscious form, causing his body to blur and dissolve into purple mist, much to Fan Lu's astonishment. A single droplet rose from the purple liquid covering the ground, followed by several streaks of black fluid being pulled upward. The liquids gradually coalesced into a physical form, and the egg, which had now turned white, hovered above. The white egg floated over a silver-haired figure as Xiao Lun fully awakened in his transformed state, his eyes scanning the area as a dense aura erupted from his body. Stunned, Fan Lu withdrew his hand, sensing a bizarre energy and deciding he needed to escape the dangerous insects in the area. Xiao Lun began walking toward him one step at a time, just as Fan Lu found himself pinned to the ground by Tino's massive claws. Sensing the situation, Xiao Lun turned back and sprinted toward the monster, leaping high into the air with a powerful kick off the ground. Xiao Lun lunged forward and delivered a barrage of punches to Tino's face, the overwhelming force striking the monster's jaw before it could react. Fan Nan managed to pull himself free from the claws, while the aura-shrouded Xiao Lun kicked Tino's in the face and retreated to gain momentum for another leap. Moving with incredible speed, Xiao Lun swung his leg and delivered a direct kick that sent Tino's crashing violently into the dirt. Fan Nan watched intently as Xiao Lun turned and offered a hand to help him up, marveling at the terrifying power radiating from the young man. He grasped Xiao Lun's hand to pull himself up and thanked him, while Tino's began to stir in the distance. 3 glowing spheres appeared above the monster's head, emitting blue lightning that connected to form a triangular formation. Fan Nan's eyes widened in terror as he shouted for them to run, just as a massive wave of energy began to surge forward. Tino's lowered his head and unleashed his full power, but Xiao Lun stepped forward and blocked the entire blast with a single hand, leaving the monster in total disbelief. Xiao Lun turned around and uttered a series of unintelligible sounds, leaving both Njai and Fan Nan momentarily stunned. As Xiao Lun continued to hold back the energy, the black egg hurried to translate, explaining that he intended to swing his club so that everyone would get a piece. Seeing Funan still looking dazed and confused, Xiao Lun opened his mouth and tried to speak, as if asking the black egg what was wrong with him. The black egg explained that vocalization is prohibited in combat mode, but Xiao Lun cried out again. Sound is forbidden? Why is that? Behind them, Njai flew back and forth, trying to make sense of it. 1 for 1, we're even. Funan's eyes widened as he watched. It seemed that. Suddenly, the black egg gave a warning. It's serious and use your strongest move. Xiao Lun finally snapped out of it, turning back with his eyes focused intently on the path ahead. A dense aura radiated from his fingertips, and Xiao Lun couldn't help but marvel. Is this what a powerful move feels like? It's truly miraculous. Suddenly, the steps to execute the technique appeared in his mind, and as he began to master the flow, bolts of lightning enveloped the energy. Beside him, the black egg cheered. Yes, this is called cyanite energy, Xiao Lun thought to himself. Wait, isn't this erosion energy? A moment later, a massive surge of energy erupted from his hand, overwhelming Tino's power. Caught off guard by the sudden counterattack, Tino's had no time to react. His whole body tilted as the concentrated power intensified, and Tino's eyes bulged before he collapsed to the ground. Only then did Xiao Lun swing his hand to retract the energy. Witnessing this, both Funan and Njai were speechless, staring at each other in shock. The black egg then reabsorbed the energy it had channeled into Xiao Lun, and as he returned to normal, his voice came back. What happened? I can speak again. As the aura receded, the black egg quickly regained its original color. Limit reached. Hearing this, Xiao Lun couldn't help but ask curiously, you mean the absolute limit, right? In the distance, Fan Luo had been secretly observing everything. Both of these worms have an egg by their side. Could these be the ancient egg relics? His gaze fixed on Njai and the black egg. Impossible, it can't be. The more he thought, the more indignant he became. Even Lord Gui couldn't revive an ancient egg. I must be overthinking it. They're just 2 worms. Suddenly, the eye in front of him flickered with lightning. A harsh voice echoed from within. Colleagues, Lord Gui has brought that important figure to the giant's garden through the bronze mirror gate. All giants nearby stand ready for orders. Sensing this, both Funin and Zio Lun were startled and looked over. Fan Luo slowly pressed a button on his hip, thinking, "Excellent, so Lord Gui has returned. Handing them over to the Lord will surely be great. It's decided." Immediately after, a piercing sound erupted from the button. Hearing the noise, both of them were stunned. Seeing Fan Luo's hand on the button at his hip, Zio Lun shouted, "Is that a warning siren? Or are you signaling your allies?" At that moment, the ground beneath them began to churn with liquid, and seconds later, a massive beast emerged. Turning around in shock, Zio Lun was speechless. Beside him, Funin was equally terrified as a swarm of giant beasts began to approach simultaneously. They gradually surrounded the two. Zio Lun's eyes widened as he looked around in confusion. "What on earth is this? How did this happen?" With power radiating from his hands, Funin warned in a low voice. "Stop dazing. Let's work together to break through the encirclement first." As soon as he finished speaking, he lunged forward and leaped into the air. Zio Lun stood there watching Funin take down a series of beasts to clear a path. He gaped in shock, marveling. "He's so strong. It seems he can handle this alone. He doesn't need my help at all." Thinking this, Zio Lun quickly ran after him. Just then, a cold, sharp claw swung toward him. But even while running, Zio Lun managed to dodge it with agility. Simultaneously, a pointed tail lashed out. Zio Lun easily leaped over it, leaving him feeling puzzled. "What's going on?" As he ran and dodged every strike, he couldn't help but marvel. "This is incredible. I can actually dodge these monsters' attacks so easily. Why are their movements so slow?" Funin, who was attacking a beast, also kept an eye on Zio Lun. Seeing him dodge with ease, and Zhai said with some surprise, "Master, this kid's skills are actually quite decent." Funin continued to watch and explain, "It's not that his skills have improved, but rather, he has slowed down the attacks of those monsters. Now I am 100% certain that the black egg is the egg of destruction mentioned in the ancient texts." Hearing this, and Zhai seemed to think of something. "Then should we?" As they ran side by side, Funin kept his eyes fixed on the other. He interrupted, "No, we are currently in the world of giants and the situation is unstable. This isn't the best time to seize its power." And Zhai whispered back, sounding a bit confused. "However, Master, if we had seized the black egg's power sooner, we could have departed this place earlier and returned to rescue Lady Fei. Fan Nan suddenly waved his hand as his power surged, snapping at him not to be hasty and to focus on the current situation, to which Zhai fearfully replied in the affirmative. Zio Lun leaned to the side to evade two lunging claws, looking amused as he told the black egg that he could handle this easily, while the egg beside him issued a warning. "Zio Nen, hurry up. That giant silver beast will be able to move again in just 2 minutes." A revelation that caused Zio Lun to startle momentarily. "What?" The black egg in midair reminded him once more to remember to retrieve the material, causing Zio Lun to stop in his tracks and mutter with a confused expression. "The material? Right, the silver key." The black egg added that returning depended on it, and he suddenly remembered, realizing he had almost forgotten about the silver key. Recalling that the key had been placed on the ground near Fan La, he saw it was still there. Zio Lun was certain it had fallen close to the giant. He then turned and ran back the way he came, and though Fan Nan didn't ask anything, he wondered to himself where the boy was heading. The surrounding area was eerily quiet as Zio Lun dodged a series of monsters and sprinted toward the key, finding that it was indeed right there. At that moment, Fan La was looking down from above, prompting the black egg to urgently tell Zio Nen to hurry. So he quickly bent down to grab the key and replied that he knew. Seeing the massive hand reaching out, the black egg cried out in panic that it was bad and that he was trying to seize it first, causing Zio Lun to turn his head in shock. Just then, Fan La's fist slammed violently into the ground, but when he pulled it back, the spot was empty, leaving behind nothing but shattered stone. Fan La's body trembled slightly as he froze, thinking angrily about how he had finally managed to move only to be rendered motionless again. As the dust settled, the silhouette of the black egg carrying Zio Lun appeared in the distance. He held the key with wide eyes, gasping for breath continuously. "I thought I was a goner for sure. Thanks, black egg." The egg then moved slightly and began to transport Zio Lun away. It gently placed Zio Lun on the ground, but a moment later, the black egg went limp and fell powerlessly, though fortunately, Zio Lun reached out just in time to catch it. Holding the key in his mouth for the moment, he checked on the black egg, asking what was wrong and if it could hear his voice. Despite his barrage of questions, the black egg remained silent, making Zio Lun worry and plead for it not to scare him, just as Fan La regained his mobility and swung his arm. His deep voice echoed, noting that it was indeed because of that object that he had been frozen, his central eye flashing with a cold light as he spoke hoarsely. He sneered, wondering where the boy would hide without that thing's help, seeing which Xiao Lun clutched the black egg and turned to flee, thinking to himself not to worry. Won't let anything happen to you. Before he could get very far, Fanla easily hoisted him off the ground with one hand and spoke triumphantly. Look at this, where could a little worm like you possibly hide? Just then, a sound came from the distance as Tino's came running over, much to Fanla's delight. Tino's, that's great, you're all right. Suddenly, Tino's kicked off the ground with great force, startling Fanla as he watched the creature swiftly snatch Xiao Lun away and move further off, leaving the stunned giant to shout after it. Wait, Tino's, what's wrong with you? Up ahead, Tino's ignored him and kept running straight, while Xiao Lun looked back, feeling quite confused. What's happening? Is it helping me? Could the energy erosion skill include control and submission? Xiao Lun felt a bit tense at this thought. He was carried away in Tino's mouth, and Fan Nan soon arrived at the spot where it had passed. Before he could react, Xiao Lun urged him on. Hurry up, it's on our side. Although Njai and Fan Nan were a bit bewildered, they replied that they understood, and Fan Nan quickly leaped high into the air. Fan Nan landed softly on Tino's back as the creature continued to bolt forward, while behind them, Fanla screamed until his throat was hoarse, his footsteps suddenly coming to a halt. Wait, Fanla lowered his head, speculating that the small egg might be controlling Tino's. If so, he might be able to use its power to reclaim the giant shell from the Swarm Emperor. This is it. This time I will definitely earn the praise of the Lord Demon. The scene then shifts to the area where Tino's is running. Clutching the black egg, Xiao Lun introduced himself without turning around, asking for the man's name and if he was a local. Dongnan introduced himself and honestly explained that they had arrived together via a spatial jump while he was inside the cave. He had entered after noticing an anomaly with the worker egg, leaving Xiao Lun to wonder if the spatial jump was the black egg's power. Njai approached Xiao Lun and confirmed his suspicions while he was still dazed, prompting him to stare at the egg and the key. Xiao Lun wondered if the key was the way back, but was startled when Dong Nan suddenly shouted at Njai. A tentacle suddenly lashed out from the black egg toward an indifferent Njai, forcing Dong Nan to rush forward and shield it. Relieved to see the egg moving, Xiao Lun called out to it while Dong Nan retreated and scolded Njai for being reckless. He warned that it would have been injured if he hadn't intervened, causing the creature to tremble and apologize to its master. Xiao Lun was startled to find a wall blocking their path, forcing all four of them to descend and investigate the dead end. Touching the wall in shock, he wondered if they were outside the wall and if their original world lay just on the other side. When the black egg began to tremble, Xiao Lun grew concerned and asked if it was still doing all right. The egg reassured him, explaining that Gong Gong had activated its backup defense shield to protect itself. It mentioned being too exhausted to use its abilities, leading Xiao Lun to ask if the Renjai egg had attacked it. The egg replied uncertainly, but warned Xiao Lun that they should not be too quick to trust others. Xiao Lun agreed, noting that after everything he had been through, he no longer placed his trust in anyone. Memories of his childhood surfaced, recalling how he had told the people claiming to be his parents that he knew they were fakes. He remembered their savage laughter, and Dong Nan, noticing his distraction, spoke up to break the silence. Dong Nan suggested they assess their current situation, and Xiao Lun dazedly agreed to listen. After a brief investigation, Dong Nan explained that he had arrived here after inserting the key into the red soldier egg. Xiao Lun clenched his fists upon hearing that the red soldier egg served as a medium for the gate, which Dong Nan confirmed. Dong Nan pointed out that the soldier's absence was proof enough, leaving Xiao Lun to stare at the key in his hand. Xiao Lun turned to the black egg and asked for their exact location, wondering if they were truly outside the wall. The egg suddenly dropped to the ground and began using its wings to sketch something in the dirt. Dong Nan and Xiao Lun watched intently until the egg finished its drawing and announced their current position. It had drawn an egg-shaped map, further confusing Xiao Lun, who wondered if they were in another strange world. Even Dong Nan was stunned, realizing that they might not be outside the wall, but rather deep inside it. Xiao Lun looked up in disbelief as the black egg continued its diligent explanation of their surroundings. It confirmed they were still within the wall and pointed out their exact location on the diagram. Xiao Lun was shocked to learn that their original world was only a small part of this egg-like structure. As the egg pointed out their relative positions, Xiao Lun knelt down and asked about the vast remaining area. Haidan shrugged helplessly, as this region had not yet been disclosed. According to it, the small upper section was revealed, but the vast lower area remained hidden. Xiao Lun lowered his head in shock, realizing such a massive territory was still concealed. This egg-shaped wall looked truly enormous, making him wonder if their living area was just a tiny fragment. However, it did not look much like a sphere. Hai Dan pointed to the area directly above and explained that it was the fifth visual zone produced by the human brain. Fan Nan seemed to understand a bit, realizing it was more accurately an illusion created by the wall, while he remained as confused as ever, failing to grasp what was happening. The wall, that wall again, he spoke slowly, noting that sometimes what the eyes saw might not be real, causing Xiao Lun to stand up abruptly and ask urgently, "Do you know anything about this wall?" Fan Nan answered honestly, "I only know that the wall is a living creature and that it possesses its own will," leaving him stunned upon hearing this. A living creature? Are we actually residing inside a giant organism? This is far too bizarre. Fan Nan had no choice but to remind him, "I think you should ask that black egg. It might know even more than I do." However, the egg merely shook its head helplessly. "I don't know. My memories only begin from the moment Xiao Ni and I first met," Xiao Lun suggested, "but you're capable of drawing maps. You must know something at least," the black egg could only clarify. "As for the map, it's because I detected a singularity." Xiao Lun was left dazed upon hearing this. "A singularity? What exactly is that?" Fan Nan interjected. "A singularity is a place where time and space are distorted, right?" The black egg then approached the map to provide guidance. "Previously, we passed through two singularities. Through them, the two pairs were connected. That is simply how we suddenly appeared in this location." Xiao Lun asked hesitantly, "So if we want to return, we have to go through these two singularities, right?" It replied bluntly, "That's impossible because those two singularities vanished after I used them." Stunned, Xiao Lun inquired, "Then how can we get back?" The black egg quickly answered, "Through the key. It has memorized our original coordinates. You can return as long as you find the portal created by the synchronization process." Hearing this, he recalled yesterday's events. Was this portal like the keyhole on that red egg soldier? It nodded in agreement. "Exactly, that was created to synchronize with this side." Xiao Lun's eyes widened as he speculated. "Then what about the portal on this side? Could it be the place where we were just sent?" The black egg replied helplessly, "It was likely there originally. However, while I was trying to capture the singularity, it was interfered with by an invisible force." That information shocked him. "An invisible force?" the egg recounted as it hovered higher. "I fear this power will lead us elsewhere. Fortunately, I copied the coordinates into the key beforehand. However, the portal has been removed by that force." And Jai, standing behind, was astonished. "Remove?" Even Fan Nan furrowed his brows. "Could the demons here have caused this? If that's true, we're in serious trouble." Xiao Lun crouched down and questioned the black egg. "Where was the portal taken?" It immediately pointed to a spot. "Inside this exit area." The more he heard, the less he understood. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Suddenly, Fan Nan stepped forward and pointed in a direction. "Black egg, do you know where this spherical area is?" It answered honestly. "This appeared when that area was exposed, so I don't know either." Xiao Lun asked skeptically. "A sphere?" Looking closer, it appeared to be a circle. Fan Nan suspiciously voiced an idea. "Wait, if they appeared together, does that mean it can be found within the world of the giants?" The black egg let out a loud snort. "Since it has been exposed, it can indeed be found here." Upon hearing this, he was startled and alarmed. Fan Nan's expression began to affect Xiao Lun as well. "Black egg, I'm certain this isn't their first time here. Judging by his calm reaction along the way, I've felt something was off." It suddenly suggested, "I'll go ask him." Hearing that, Xiao Lun hurriedly stopped it. "Don't. If he hasn't spoken, it means he doesn't want to. Let's not make things difficult for ourselves. He surely knows quite a bit. If we can't find the key, he will be our fallback plan." He then made a request. "Therefore, we must stay close and never let them out of our sight." The black egg immediately nodded in obedience. Fan Nan and Njai were equally anxious on their side. "Master, did we act a bit too familiar just now? It seems we should stop asking about core issues for now." Just as he thought this, Xiao Lun suddenly turned toward them with a friendly smile, startling both of them. He suggested, "Black egg, can't we narrow down the range of that stolen location?" It quickly replied, "It's fine. Actually, we can just use the key's vision-sharing function." Xiao Lun asked in confusion, "The key's vision-sharing function?" Fan Nan was also startled and puzzled. He stood up and pointed at the key. "Use this key," the black egg quickly confirmed. "Since the key and the portal are connected, the portal's view can be seen through the key, and the key's view can also be seen." Xiao Lun got straight to the point. "Then what do we need to do?" Without wasting words, it took the key. "Give the key to me." The black egg pointed the key's tip toward Xiao Lun. "Don't be afraid, just relax and close your eyes." He obediently followed the instructions. Xiao Lun slowly closed his eyes tightly. A surge of power spiraled out from the key, its tip pointing directly at his eyelids. After a moment, the black egg spoke softly. "All right, you can slowly open your eyes now." Zio Lun followed the command and opened them gradually. When he looked closely, his eyes widened in shock. Inside, Zio Lun saw a massive spiral. The scene within gradually shifted. Is this the portal's perspective? Beneath a semicircular membrane, it appeared to be a city. After a moment of adjustment, Zio Lun stared in bewilderment at the tightly bound hands, realizing the portal was attached to a person who seemed to be a prisoner being escorted, prompting him to look up at the figure leading the way. It was likely that woman, sitting there with a haughty air, who suddenly turned her head towards Zio Lun and began to perform a technique with her hands. His vision began to blur and gradually narrowed until it finally snapped shut, leaving him in pitch-black darkness. Zio Lun snapped his eyes open in a fright, wondering if he had been discovered, while Black Egg noticed his intense expression and asked what was wrong, prompting him to hurriedly recount what had happened. The portal was collapsed by a mysterious girl who I suspect is the one who extracted the energy, and it felt like she could see me too. It slowly explained that if a portal is attached to a living creature, the pupils will change slightly during vision sharing, leading Fan Nan to ask for more details. If she has the power to extract it, then being discovered is possible. But did you see the surroundings clearly? Zio Lun then crouched down and drew a city beneath a transparent dome on the ground. After working diligently, he managed to sketch it out and noted that, judging by the scream, the person the portal was attached to was a woman whose hands were tightly bound. And Jai was stunned to hear they were bound, concluding the person was either a prisoner or cargo, and asked if there was any other information. Zio Lun continued his description, noting that the woman who extracted the portal wore pure white clothes and looked young, with two others standing beside her. They seemed to be in a cave looking at the hemispherical city ahead, and he pointed out two figures on the ground who were completely covered up. Fan Nan quickly pressed for more details, asking if he had seen the faces of the other two or what they were wearing. Zio Lun looked up and replied that those two were clearly larger than the woman in white, and since one wore a hood that hid their face, he wondered if they were giants. Black Egg suddenly approached with the key and mentioned that he had forgotten to explain that the numbers on the countdown represented the key's remaining duration. He was bewildered and asked what that meant, so Black Egg explained that once the timer reset to 0, the key would disappear. Zio Lun finally realized the gravity of the situation, but Fan Nan suddenly signaled for silence as a dark shadow emerged from the rock crevices, urgently whispering that they had to leave at once. As he spoke, Fan Nan suddenly froze because a figure had appeared behind Zio Lun without warning, causing him to yell, "Fang Zio Lun, behind you." He spun around in shock to see Mi Chu gripping him tightly before she dragged him to the ground, while Fan Nan rushed over as Zio Lun gritted his teeth, trying to tear away the vines wrapped around his waist. He couldn't break free, and even Black Egg was powerless against Mi Chu's strength as they were both dragged toward the rock crevice, prompting him to shout for her to let go. Strange noises suddenly echoed from within the crevice, startling Fan Nan, as a foot slowly stepped out from the darkness. Dai stepped out of the crevice with an arrogant air, prompting Fan Nan to take a combat stance as the man easily snatched Black Egg with one hand. As Dai and Mi Chu held Black Egg and Zio Lun captive, he made a proposal to borrow the black ancient egg relic for a moment. "In exchange, I can tell you where that city is," he said, leaving Zio Lun stunned and wondering why he had called Black Egg by that name. Dai raised his voice to ask for their answer, but Fan Nan countered by demanding to know how long they had been followed, to which the woman replied that it began back when they were at the nurturing grounds. "It took you quite a while to notice us," she added, leaving Fan Nan's eyes widened in shock as he realized they had been followed since that moment. Losing his patience, Dai growled that it was annoying and demanded an answer, prompting Fan Nan to immediately shout back in defiance. "What answer? You've taken us captive, so is this how you make a request?" Fan Nan asked, but Mi Chu sneered, questioning if Dai even needed to ask anything of them. "Don't throw away the respect you've been shown," she warned, while Dai smirked and concluded that their negotiations had officially failed. "In that case, I'll just kill the masked man, and I assume the master of the relic egg has no objections," Dai said, leaving Zio Lun to cry out in protest. Dai smirked with amusement and lunged at Fan Nan with such incredible speed that the man had no time to react to the sudden assault. He attempted a strike, but it passed right through Fan. Only when he felt nothing did he realize in shock, wondering how the man had phased through his body. He charged straight through Fan's body before turning back, utilizing his immense speed to launch a relentless barrage of attacks from every direction. Meanwhile, Fan remained dazed, wondering why the man kept passing through him, until a direct hit snapped him to attention. It wasn't just a shadow, and the ensuing flurry of punches left him unable to react. Damn it, that was a physical strike. Perhaps he's using clones as a distraction before launching an assault with his actual body. Fine, I've figured out your trick, so prepare for my counterattack. Suddenly, another figure appeared behind Fan, a clone of himself created by Dai, who wore a cunning smirk. It turns out the most terrifying thing is seeing yourself without a mask. Fan stared in wide-eyed horror before angrily dodging the approach. Damn you, you actually pried into my mind. Dai stepped back with a mocking laugh, calling it ridiculous that someone would be afraid of their own unmasked face, which provoked Fan into a rage. Curse you, as the two clashed in a fierce battle. Magneto watched from the sidelines and remarked that he was using compressed air. Is he creating explosions? Zio Lun shouted a warning toward the southeast, telling Dong Nen not to be deceived because that man hadn't actually left. Indeed, he had been right beside him the whole time, causing Fan to freeze in place. Zio Lun then turned to Dai and spoke up loudly. Dong Nan, he hasn't made a move yet, and the one you're fighting is an illusion. He argued back, asking how it could be an illusion if every punch connected, leaving the boy wondering if real and fake clones were being used simultaneously. Magneto smirked with excitement from behind, commenting on how poor his vision was since it had been a one-on-one fight from the very beginning. A single clone is more than enough to handle him. Zio Lun paused as Dai curled his lips, not hesitating to show off. My ability allows me to swap between my real body and my clones at will, whether it's my entire form or just a specific part of it. The woman was startled and scolded him for carelessly revealing his powers, leaving Zio Lun in a state of daze. Swapping the whole body, or just a part, explains how he constantly shifts between reality and illusion. But why would he disclose his ability to me? He answered honestly that it was a gesture of good faith. Zio Lun frowned in thought, realizing that while the man acted on his own, revealing his power showed he truly wanted Black Egg's help. Dai quickly returned to the fray, and soon enough he had captured Fan, who was not only caught but also beaten to a pulp. Dai turned to Zio Lun with a serious expression and asked if they were teammates, noting that from what he had observed, the man seemed to have a different agenda. Although he didn't answer, doubts arose in his heart. They weren't exactly teammates but merely acquaintances, and while he didn't know why the man approached him, Zio Lun glanced over at Fan. I'm only using him to find a way out, so my motives aren't pure either. We're just using each other, so there's no need to worry, right, Black Egg? It quickly replied that its life also depended on Zio Lun, and that it would follow his lead since they were both benefiting. Touched by those words, Zio Lun decided to take a risk and asked Dai to negotiate seriously. To achieve his goal, he ordered Magneto to release him. Though she disagreed, he didn't hesitate to bark an order at her to hurry up. Magneto eventually let him down, and as Dai urgently asked for his terms, Zio Lun demanded that Dong Nan be released, a request that Dai happily granted, saying it was easy. Zio Lun frowned and added seriously that he also wanted him to personally escort them to that city, stating those were his only two conditions, which made Dai pause. Personally, Magneto shouted unhappily from behind, questioning how he dared to set conditions and demand a personal escort, but Zio Lun immediately shot back. He is emphasizing the word negotiation, so why don't you tell me what that means? His words left her speechless, while Dai burst into an amused laugh upon hearing it. You're quite something. Meanwhile, Black Egg was panicking and asked Zio Lun what they would do if he refused, but Zio Lun quickly calmed both the creature and himself. With someone as strong as him escorting us, his mere presence would be enough to intimidate others. Besides, he's the one who asked for your help, so as long as our demands aren't excessive, the chances of him agreeing are very high. So even if we're bluffing, we must appear resolute. Without a word, the man began walking towards Zio Lun. He lowered his head and looked directly into his eyes, wondering if the boy really thought he would agree just like that. Zio Lun's gaze didn't waver at all, which made Dai curl his lips in interest. He finally gave a temporary nod, saying he would see if the boy could handle the tasks assigned. Those words made Black Egg break into a cold sweat. What exactly did he want? Dai satisfiedly stated his demand. It was simple, help him control the giant slaughter. Zio asked in shock what the giant slaughter was, while Dong Nam was equally startled. He then generously released Black Egg and told them to move out. Once freed, it aggrievedly burrowed into Zio Lun's arms. Zio Nen carefully picked up Black Egg to examine it, asking if the device restraining it could be removed. Dai indifferently replied it was just for security and told them to get moving. A cry echoed from the side, causing Zio Lun to turn toward Dong Nam in surprise. He asked with concern if Dong Nam was all right, and the man quickly steadied himself. Dong Nam told him he was fine and didn't need help, making Zio Lun step back just as he was about to assist. Zio Lun hesitantly advised that since he agreed to help, they had to get along for now, but the man was so furious he wanted to tear the enemy apart. Living in peace with that man was absolutely impossible. Seeing this, he could only manage a helpless, bitter smile, realizing his companion was truly enraged. It was best to stay quiet to avoid upsetting him further. Dai took the lead, while Xiao Lun asked a question in confusion. He wondered if riding the massive beast wouldn't be faster, but the man bluntly stated they didn't need it, leaving Xiao Lun bewildered. He looked back and forth between Dai and the creature. He then asked Black Egg how much longer they could maintain control over the giant monster. It checked for a moment before answering. There was less than half an hour left. He seemed to have his own plan and muttered that it was enough. Tino's, which had been lying still, suddenly sprang up, leaped through a rock crevice, and bolted away. He urged the great beast to run wild and get as far away as possible. Seeing this, Dai nodded in approval, noting that the kid actually had some brains. The group soon made it inside. Xiao Lun suddenly broke the silence, asking Magneto if the faceless merman she mentioned was their comrade and if she used to be human. She immediately spoke up with an indignant tone. She confirmed that they were too late to save him, as he had already been placed in the human-rearing sphere. It was all the doing of that wretched Fan Luo, who wanted to lure Dai out. Even his face turned pale with rage, as he vowed to eventually slice that one-eyed monster in half. Only then did the boy realize the truth. It turned out they had come to this facility to rescue their teammate before discovering them. A button appeared on the cliffside, and Dai stepped forward to press it. A secret door swung open immediately. Xiao Lun looked down in shock at the tunnel below. He peered timidly into the deep pit, noticing there were no stairs, when suddenly a hand was placed on his shoulder. Dai grabbed Xiao Lun's neck and planted a foot on his back. With a single kick, he easily sent Xiao Lun flying into the depths, causing him to scream in terror. Seeing him in danger, Black Egg cried out for Xiao Nen. As Xiao Lun was pushed into the bottomless portal, it didn't hesitate to dive after him. Dai just stood there and smirked. Without a second's delay, he leaped and plunged straight into the portal. Magneto's group then emerged unexpectedly from the shadows. Dong Nam and Njai looked at her, but Magneto just shrugged and told them to do it themselves. She pulled a cocoon from her person and told them to take it. She extended her hand toward him, and Dong Nam took it while looking at her suspiciously. He asked if it was a cocoon. Watching Dai's departing figure, Magneto spoke up. She advised him to just stick it on his skin, preferably on the back of the neck or the back. Suddenly, Dong Nam, holding the cocoon, turned toward the portal in surprise. Seeing him dazed, she stepped forward and told him she would cover the rear while he went ahead. Back with the free-falling Xiao Lun, he felt a strange discomfort on his neck. It was odd. His neck was incredibly itchy. He reached back and suddenly felt a cocoon. While he was wondering about it, Dai caught up from behind and grabbed Black Egg, ignoring its protests. Xiao Lun's face turned pale. He gasped about wings. Seeing his bewildered expression, Dai couldn't help but mock him, telling him not to be so stupid and to use his mind to control the butterfly wings on his neck. Xiao Lun regained his composure while clutching the cocoon, snapping back that Dai was the fool. He had been kicked out of nowhere and now was being told to control some butterfly wings. He didn't bother arguing with Xiao Lun and quickly flew off, wishing him luck as they were almost there. Black Egg screamed for Xiao Nen, while Xiao Lun shouted for him to wait. He clenched his fists and cursed under his breath, wondering how that hateful man could treat someone he asked for help like this. From a distance, it telepathically urged Xiao Nen to spread his wings like the other guy. Xiao Lun tried, but with the cocoon on his back, he struggled. He remembered being told to use his thoughts to control the thing on his neck. Seeing the ground approaching below, he panicked, realizing he was about to hit the bottom. Xiao Lun's eyes were squeezed shut as he broke into a sweat, desperately urging his wings to spread while struggling in Dai's grip. Suddenly, the Xiao Nen cocoon on the back of his neck cracked open, releasing black mist. Just as Xiao Lun's head was about to hit the ground, the black mist split into two large streams to catch him. He commanded them to open as the ground beneath him suddenly fractured. He soared into the air as energy gathered behind his back to form wings, leaving both Dai and the Black Egg staring up at him in confusion. Dai smirked while examining the wings, noting their fragile butterfly-like structure was merely for flight and possessed no actual power. His gaze shifted to the cracked earth, wondering why the ground had broken and if the boy's butterfly wings had somehow changed attributes. Xiao Lun looked at his wings in excitement, marveling at the miracle of flight which piqued Dai's interest. Dai found the boy's ability intriguing, while Dong Nan called out from above, asking Xiao Lun if he was all right and warning him that Dai liked to play dirty. Xiao Lun looked up, relieved that his wings had finally opened at the last second, just as the Black Egg was released and rushed toward Xiao Nan. Dai gave a sly smile and glanced at Dong Nan, remarking that they were both equally devious since Dong Nan was also testing the boy's abilities. He questioned if that tennis was so weak it got pinned down after only a few moves. Hearing this, Njai was the first to react. Njai tried to explain it wasn't like that, but Dong Nan cut him off, telling him not to bother talking to someone as impossible to communicate with as Dai. Dai remained unfazed and challenged Dong Nan, asking if a loser like him even had the right to speak. Dong-nan gritted his teeth and dared Dai to another fight. Dai ignored him and walked away, prompting Dong-nan to shout for him to stop, while Xiao-Lun watched the two of them argue in disbelief. Xiao-Lun felt speechless that they were bickering when he was the one who had been tricked. He then flew alongside the puzzled Njai. Njai asked what was wrong with his master, and Dong-nan sighed, apologizing and admitting he felt agitated after Dai had seen through his inner thoughts. Njai looked at him with concern, but Dong-nan reassured him he would calm down as they eventually reached a range of colorful mountains. Xiao-Lun followed behind, asking where they were since the scenery had changed completely. Dai led the way, explaining they were at the Black Tree Grotto, an ancient egg ruin. Xiao-Lun was surprised, remembering Dai had called the black egg an ancient egg relic earlier, and asked why he used that term as Dai slowed down to explain. Dai explained that a century ago, everyone had an egg by their side just like they did now. But then someone brought a disaster back from the world's forbidden zone. The disaster caused the eggs to vanish, leaving the place in its current deathly state. Xiao-Lun wondered if this meant no one else had eggs anymore. Dai nodded and explained they were nearly extinct, which is why they were called ancient egg creatures, with the exception of the relic known as the Giant's Shard. Xiao-Lun asked if that was the same Giant's Shard Dai wanted the black egg to control, and what his ultimate goal was. Dai nodded seriously. Dai confirmed he wanted to control the Giant's Shard to find the toxic flower of the Ying tree, leaving Xiao-Lun confused about what that flower was. The woman flew in front of him and impatiently explained it was the antidote for gigantism, which would help Dai's hand and his mother. Dai sharply told Manito to shut up. Xiao-Lun realized that both Dai's hand and his mother's body had been affected by gigantism. He looked at Dai's gloved hand, finally understanding why he wore such a large glove, and kept his eyes fixed on it. Proportionally, Dai's hand wasn't even a third the size of that one-eyed giant's, yet the gigantism was likely still continuously eroding his body. Xiao-Lun speculated that the process must be painful. Sensing his pitying gaze, Dai turned around and spoke with a firm, resonant voice. Dai told Xiao-Lun not to worry about anything else, and to simply focus on helping him find the toxic flower of the Ying tree. Xiao-Lun set aside his worries and agreed. Xiao-Lun then asked Dai about his earlier comment regarding someone bringing disaster from the Forbidden Zone, and if they already knew the world was egg-shaped. He turned and slowly paced forward with a nod, saying he learned from his mother that she called this egg-shaped world oviparous life. What exactly is this oviparous life egg-shaped world? Did your mother say anything else? He shook his head indifferently, stating she remained silent on deeper topics. Seeing his expression, he stopped asking. Walking beside Dong-nan, Njai sent a telepathic message. Master, the Forbidden Zone he mentioned must be that circular central area. Dong-nan frowned with a grim look, replying that it likely was, as the Ghost Fruit Organization had always scouted that center but found nothing. Deeper they went, the gloomier the mountain became. He hadn't expected to find it on the Black Egg map, and it would be trouble if the Ghost Fruit Organization found out. This Black Egg and Xiao-Lun would likely become their targets. After a moment of silence, he couldn't help but speak up, saying that he had something to disclose to Dai. We have less than 21 hours left, so we must find that city quickly. Pausing for a moment, he gave Xiao-Lun a reassuring look. Don't worry, I know the fastest route there, and my talking won't waste too much time. Having said that, Dai quickly flew off. Descend now, we have arrived. Hearing this, Dong-nan looked down and was startled, while the boy beside him was also slightly surprised. As soon as they landed, the wings retracted, prompting Xiao-Lun to marvel at how impressive they were for retracting on command. While walking and observing his surroundings, he noticed something and asked what the mass bundled up beside them was. Seeing Xiao-Lun staring at the cocoon, the woman spoke up. These are protective cocoons. If Dai and I weren't here, you would likely have become its food. Xiao-Lun didn't reply but was inwardly shocked, wondering if there were man-eating monsters inside. He stopped by a cocoon and watched it twitch slightly, thinking it was quite terrifying. They continued deeper until Dai, leading the way, halted and announced their arrival. Dong-nan and he were stunned to see a massive egg ahead, bound by 5 iron chains, wondering if this giant shell was really that much larger than their black egg. Dai shook his head and raised his hand to strike, slicing open the shell to reveal a blue-black egg inside. Everyone stood frozen in silence until he pointed inside, telling the boy to look closely at the true form. Their eyes were fixed on the giant within, as Xiao-Lun used telepathy to tell it that although it was nearly as large as the black egg, the blue light surrounding it felt very dangerous, especially since it had formed so many layers of shell in less than a day. His eyes widened at the mention of one day, and he asked how it turned people into giants. The woman didn't answer but walked toward the giant and poked the massive eggshell, pointing to a specific spot. Manito pointed toward them and explained that the giant-making effect was mainly in this third layer, asking if they had noticed the giant sphere in the sky over the giant land. Realizing something, he nodded. I see, its shell is used as a tool to carry out the giant transformation. She nodded and said hesitantly that this was how the giant shell turned the world into this hellish state to enforce their hegemony. Hearing this, Xiao Lun felt doubtful. Dai stepped forward and used his gloved hand to decisively pull the giant out. Dai grabbed the chain embedded in its back, his gaze turning cold as he shouted that this relic's existence was a calamity. Sensing danger, it couldn't help but speak up. You rotten brat, you're hurting your granddaddy. Hearing this, Dai spat and cursed at it, calling it a monkey instead of a granddaddy, while the giant snorted coldly. How dare you speak to your granddaddy like that? You'll never find the poison tree's flower now. He brought it before the black egg and ordered it to restrain the creature immediately. It was about to say something when the giant interrupted, mockingly asking if there were any other eggs besides itself, calling the idea utterly absurd. How ignorant! There are still traces of lethal egg nectar in the air, and if your granddaddy hadn't created a protective shell inside, Shan would be dead by now. Xiao Lun caught the key point and asked for an explanation of the lethal egg nectar. Before it could answer, Dai explained it was the calamity from the forbidden zone he mentioned earlier. The woman stepped up from behind to add more. This nectar is a terrifying existence for eggs, acting as a soul-stealing poison upon absorption. It seems to react with the environment here, evolving into a microbial state that constantly multiplies in the air. Ultimately, it causes mass egg deaths. Xiao Lun asked the black egg anxiously if it felt unwell, but it shook its head, saying it actually felt more comfortable here. Seeing everyone staring, the two communicated telepathically. Hey Xiao, did I say something wrong? Ignore them, it's best that you're fine. He turned to look at his brother and then at the creature, asking Dong Nan about Njai. Dong Nan, having observed, shook his head. It's fine. Seeming to have deduced something. He realized it might be due to coming from different worlds, but he didn't tell Xiao Lun the truth. Actually, that wasn't the case. When Njai was first brought to the giant world, he was nearly poisoned to death. He looked around, speechless and silent. Both Dong Nan and Njai turned at the same time. Could this black egg survive freely in the lethal egg nectar because of an immunity, or did it also originate from the central region like the nectar itself? His gaze was fixed on it and Xiao Lun. Perhaps it was unaffected by the dangers brought from that place. The mysteries surrounding it truly seemed endless. The woman's voice interrupted Dong Nan's thoughts. I'm quite curious. Does everyone in your world really possess an egg? He nodded, confirming that everyone did. Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, Dai shouted, "Stop being curious about such things. And you, black egg, hurry up and take control of the giant shell for me." But the black egg shook its head and suggested they wait a little longer. Since Xiao Nen had consumed a significant amount of energy in its combat form earlier, it would take some time to activate the sound-linked stone's energy. Losing his patience, he frowned and demanded, "When will it be ready? Give me a specific time." The black egg pondered for a moment before answering hesitantly. "This egg nectar is nourishing my body, so I should recover faster than expected. About 15 minutes should be enough." The giant in Dai's hand trembled in protest. "Liar, stop deceiving your master. How could egg nectar possibly nourish you?" Seeing its agitation, the black egg shook its head and whispered, "I am not lying to you." The giant shouted in anger, still refusing to believe it. "You are definitely lying." Just then, someone rushed over from behind. "Dai, Xuan has regained consciousness." His eyes widened in disbelief as he asked for confirmation. "Really, my mother is awake?" The person nodded. Once confirmed, Dai tossed it toward the large eggshell. "Lock it back up," he ordered, and the woman nodded in agreement. "Yes." Dai quickly brushed past the two and left. Watching his retreating figure, Xiao Lun turned and said, "Let's follow him." After walking for a while, they reached a cave. He scanned the surroundings and thought with a frown, "There are too many forks here. If we don't stay close, we'll easily get lost. Where do all these paths lead anyway?" While lost in thought, Xiao Lun suddenly noticed a change ahead. As everyone followed behind him, he remarked, "I remember Dai mentioning this place is the Black Tree Pit, one of the ancient egg ruins." As they entered, the final gate finally swung open. "So this is the heart of the ruins." Xiao Lun's eyes darted around until he noticed the carvings on the wall. He slowed his pace to take a closer look. Xiao Lun pointed at the statue's hand and exclaimed, "Wait, is the person in this mural holding an egg? Are those small dots lined up inside the egg supposed to be people? This is so eerie. Wait a second." He and the black egg stopped, their eyes glued to the image on the wall. Could this be a miniature depiction of our egg-shaped world? Xiao Lun squinted for a better look and realized, then are these small dots us? No way. Behind them, Dong Nan and Njai also noticed it. Njai used a voice transmission that only the two of them could hear. "Master, didn't we hear before that if we find Ghost Crow Zero, we can find the true exit of the Egg of Life. Looking at this mural now, could the location depicted be the actual coordinates of the exit? He stared thoughtfully at the black dots on the egg. Anjai, if this is the egg ruins, then it means this place might be where the egg is enshrined. If the true coordinates were known, the exit would have been discovered long ago. Anjai frowned and sighed heavily. More than finding an exit, I want to find a way to stop that man from controlling you, master. Hearing Anjai's words, Dong Nan fell silent. After a brief pause, Anjai reminded him again, Master, we should still hurry and absorb the black egg's energy. Right now, I have no way to use my powers to assist you. Dong Nan replied, I know you're worried about me, but I'm truly fine. That man modified you and took Faye hostage to force us to find the world-ending egg and absorb its energy for him. His gaze remained fixed on the boys back ahead. But I feel this isn't his true scheme. His real plan is to use us to get close to Fang Xiao Lun and the black egg, tricking them into helping him find the actual exit of the Egg of Life. Determination flared in his eyes. So his ultimate goal is to go beyond the wall and escape this bizarre egg-shaped world. While Anjai was mid-sentence, Xiao Lun stopped up ahead. So what should we do? Do we need to absorb it? Dai hurriedly pulled back the curtain, unable to hide his joy. A woman with a pale face and massive, giant legs looked at him. Mother. Woman lying on the bed was Xuan, Dai's mother. She smiled at him. Dai's face was etched with worry as he asked hastily, You've finally woken up. Do you know how long you've been asleep? Xuan nodded, her eyes glancing behind him. Huan told me it's been over half a month. Dai knelt down by the bedside. How are you feeling now? Do your legs still feel swollen and painful? Xuan looked back at his smiling face and replied that she was fine and the pain had subsided. This made Dai extremely excited. Mother, you won't have to endure this agonizing torment anymore. We will find the poison tree's ying flower very soon. Hearing this, she was confused. Huh! Then Xuan noticed two others behind him. Her voice was filled with surprise and curiosity. And these two are... Xiao Lun stepped forward with a friendly smile. Greetings, Auntie. For some reason, Xuan found herself stammering in his presence. Hello there. Dai turned to Xiao Lun and then asked, Mother, you're surprised, aren't you? Suddenly, he grabbed the black egg and held it up in front of her joyfully. This is it. This egg can help us locate the poison tree's ying flower. Xuan stared wide-eyed and agape, while the black egg awkwardly muttered, Hello. Memories of her late husband suddenly flashed through her mind. Wife, I've already chosen a name for our unborn child. Let's call him Dai. Yes, Dai. Stop talking for a moment. Is there a way to survive after the bone sphere is removed? Tell me. With a weak breath, Chuan urged, Wife, listen to me until the end. When the pitch-black egg appears, it marks the day of your great calamity. When that time comes, you must hide. After saying this, he took his final breath, leaving Chuan to scream as she held his body. It doesn't matter when I die, I just want you to live. Chuan, don't leave me. She stared intently at the egg, thinking to herself, Chuan, what was meant to come has finally arrived. There is no escaping it. The black egg broke into a cold sweat under her gaze. A pitch-black egg, the omen that my great calamity is approaching. Her eyes remained fixed on it in silence. Chuan was still lost in her thoughts, although Chuan's prophecies were always accurate. In many cases, the prophetic visions lacked a fundamental connection. This meant her death might not necessarily be caused by the black egg. The visions might have simply appeared together by coincidence. Seeing her dazed, he called out in concern, Mother. Dai's voice pulled Xuan back to reality. He looked at her doubtfully. Mother, what's wrong? Xuan gave a reassuring smile. It's nothing. Right, Dai, did you say that black egg can help you find the poison tree's ying flower? However, most of the ying flowers were destroyed by the giants long ago. Furthermore, the ying flower can run away on its own. Hearing this, Xiao Lun asked in surprise, It can run? Isn't the ying flower a tree? She looked at him and nodded. Indeed, but it's unlike ordinary trees. It flees when it senses danger. Capturing it won't be easy. Has it become a spirit then? He turned with a confident smile. Don't worry, I have a way to lure it out. A giant's husk can secrete a special substance called condensed egg balm that attracts the ying flower. It seemed Xiao Lun understood Dai's plan, asking, So you want the black egg to control the giant's husk to secrete the balm? But the giant's world is vast. The ying flower might not even smell it. His smile faded as he replied seriously, We've already identified several places where the ying flower might be hiding. She glanced at the black egg. So this little fellow has the power of control. Perhaps it really can help Dai neutralize the giant flower's poison. Xuan's face softened with tenderness as she looked at him. This little Dai was so clingy when he was a child. Never expected him to be able to take charge like this. Although I might not live to see his future growth, the most important thing now is to ensure his safety. Memories flooded her mind once again. We've been hiding for over a decade, fleeing from the crow's pursuit. If not for Chuan's bone sphere protecting us, we would have been captured long ago. Returning to reality, Xuan instinctively touched the back of her neck. Before my day of death arrives, the bone sphere must be handed over to Dai. Behind her was a large scar hidden by her hair. but this thing erodes one's humanity. Without immense mental strength, it's very difficult to control, and my current body is already suffering from its backlash. She didn't want to dampen his spirits. Could Dai even endure it? Besides, if an antidote could be found now to restore Dai's hand to normal, that would naturally be for the best. Anxiety still lingered in Xuan's heart. What if they have ill intentions? Or what if they are subordinates of that family? Suddenly, the black egg used telepathy to speak to her. Are you afraid of me? Its voice echoed in her head, startling Xuan. You really are afraid of me? Is it because I look so ugly? Regaining her composure, she replied telepathically. Is the little black egg talking to me? It nodded. Yes, something on your person is forcibly establishing a connection with me. Surprised, she voiced her suspicion. Is that something the bone sphere? The black egg repeated Xuan's words. So it's called the bone sphere. It seemed to detect your fluctuating emotions just now. Then it linked with me. From the moment you answered, our mental exchange was officially established. Seeing her expression, the black egg said firmly, Are you feeling scared? Don't be. I might be pitch black, but I'm not a bad person. Her heart swelled at his words, and she immediately leaned forward to pull the black egg into an embrace, a sudden move that startled him. Xuan held it tightly as if it might vanish if she let go. Forgive me. I felt your sincere affection through the bone bridge. It has been so long since such a warm current flowed into my heart, making me feel this at peace. Seeing this, Dai called out anxiously, Mother. She ignored the message and looked back at them. Little black egg, help Dai neutralize the giantification toxin. Xuan looked towards Xiao Lun and smiled. I'm counting on you. It nodded firmly in her arms. Rest assured, since Xiao Nen agreed to Dai's request, there is no need to ask. We will do our absolute best, Xuan replied. Thank you. Having secured its help, Xuan said, Little black egg, I wish to speak with the two of you in private now. She sighed at its fierce expression. There are secrets about this egg world that my husband, the crow ghost, discovered. Xuan looked at Dai, who understood and went outside to close the door. Mini, returning from a mission, saw Dai and Dong Nan and Zhai waiting outside. Dai, why are you out here? Hasn't Xuan woken up yet? His hand tightened into a fist as his face darkened. Mother wants to speak with that brat alone. Manito was startled, thinking his anger had nearly reached its boiling point. Not wanting to deal with his rage, she quickly made an excuse to leave. I just remembered some matters I need to handle. After only a few steps, Dai's low voice called her back. Spar with me? Ignoring him, she fled in a panic. Forgive me. Dai's face darkened as he looked at Dong Nan. You, the defeated subordinate over there, didn't you want a rematch before? Do you want to fight now? He didn't know what was happening, but if a challenge was issued, he would accept. Bring it on. A moment later, Xiao Lun and the black egg stepped out. It turned out they were the first group of humans placed into this egg world, and the mastermind behind it was a mysterious god. What on earth? As he walked, Xiao Lun was lost in thought. Is this god using the life embryos of this egg world to raise food? Thinking of something, his steps came to a sudden halt. Food? Could it be that we are the food? That's right, the eggs. I remember the red egg soldiers saying white eggs are food. Xiao Lun suddenly recalled Yao Tian's face. Human, you must have noticed everyone around you is a white egg. They are food, while I, a red egg, am a soldier. You, the black egg, are a mutant insect. He finally understood the meaning. A piercing sound interrupted Xiao Lun's thoughts. Looking up, he saw Dai and Dong Nan approaching. Xiao Lun looked at them suspiciously and asked, By the way, where did you guys go? He replied, Just killing time. But then he noticed a bruise on Dong Nan's face. Dong Nan quickly turned away to hide it. Xiao Lun, being sharp-eyed, stepped forward to check on him. Dong Nan, why does your face look more swollen? He dodged the question. It's nothing, just your imagination. Speaking of which, that backpack on your chest. Xiao Lun replied, Aunt Xuan gave it to me to hold the keys. Seeing Dai about to leave, he quickly spoke up. Wait, Dai, don't go yet. Aunt Xuan said she wants you to go inside for a moment. He didn't even turn around, his pace steady. No need. It's time for us to head out. Seeing his back, Xiao Lun couldn't help himself. Dai, wait. Aunt Xuan probably has something very important to tell you. Dai turned around, his face still clouded with anger. Huh, something important. Wasn't the important stuff already told to an outsider like you? What else is there to say? Hearing his tone, Xiao Lun immediately realized what was happening. What is this guy throwing a tantrum for? The black egg and I both heard it. Aunt Xuan wanted to speak with us privately because she's worried about you, you idiot. Dai turned his head, his lips curling into a mocking smirk. You, Xiao Lun? Why don't you just go be her son? After all, her biological son is just an outsider. He clenched his fists and muttered under his breath. Dai shouted, Huh, I can't hear you, speak up. Unable to restrain himself, Xiao Lun roared in anger. I'm calling you a fool and a brat. What are you acting like this for? Is having a mother who loves you such a big deal? Why are you putting on such an act? Hearing the words fool and brat felt like a stab to Dai's heart. Dong Nan and Njai stood there looking awkward. He let out a shout and immediately lunged at Xiao Lun. What, Xiao Lun, you dare call me a brat? You're dead. He waved his hand calmly. It looked gentle, yet it managed to deflect Dai's strike. What's wrong with this Zio Lun? He easily swatted my hand away. Dai closely observed the power gathering in his palm. How strange. The energy radiating from his hand is more than twice as high as when he transforms. Is it because emotional fluctuations are boosting this energy flow? Zio Lun's angry shout rang out. Someone who only knows how to make his mother worry and cry. If that's not a brat, then what is? Dai smirked and retorted disdainfully. I make her worry. I'm this strong. How could I possibly make her worry? You claim she's crying. My mother is the strongest person I know. She never sheds tears in front of anyone. What nonsense are you talking about? He chuckled softly, his eyes and smile exuding a piercing coldness. Is that so? Whether she's crying or not, why don't you go inside and see for yourself? Upon hearing this, he immediately rushed toward her room. I'll deal with you later, Dan asked in confusion. Zio-ni, what was that energy release just now? Looking at his own hands, Zio Lun replied via telepathy. When I was young, I went through a strange phase where my strength far exceeded that of other children. But after I discovered my guardians were an elderly couple, that mysterious power vanished, only to resurface just a moment ago. It giggled, praising Zio Nun. So you were that formidable as a child? Zio Lun frowned, a hint of discomfort in his eyes. In the human world, being excessively powerful can lead to one's downfall. It's better to appear a bit foolish to reduce hostility. Hearing this, Dan was left completely bewildered. What? As soon as Dai entered, he shouted, Mother, why the panic? Seeing her lying there peacefully, he frowned. As I thought, that brat tricked me. She looked at Dai with eyes full of tender affection. Are you angry with me? He shook his head. No, Shuan replied. Dai, do you remember that day? You were angry with me then, too. You ran out on your own. I didn't realize you were preparing a birthday gift for me. His eyes widened as childhood memories flooded back. Young Dai had stormed off in a fit of rage. Mother is such a fool. Couldn't she have waited a bit longer? I've been secretly preparing this gift for over half a month. I can't just leave it behind. As he walked, he heard a shout from behind. Where are you taking me? We aren't doing anything. The child was terrified. Mother, they said, don't be afraid, it's just a routine inspection. If you cooperate, you'll receive 1 credit. Seeing his leader dazed, the subordinate asked, What's wrong? He quickly chased after Dai. That brat looks a bit like the one Lord Crow described. I'm going to confirm it. Reaching a fork in the road, he turned quickly. Dai had long sensed someone was following him and smirked. You want to hunt me? Let's see if you have the skill. The man hid in a corner and followed once Dai was far enough away. As he dashed forward, a figure flashed by like lightning. Shuan's hair pierced right through his heart. She maintained her speed as she sped away, glancing back to check. Seeing him collapse, Shuan left immediately. She hurriedly chased after him, shouting, Dai, stop acting up. They've already tracked us here. We must leave quickly. He replied, I'm just grabbing something. It'll be fast. It's at my secret base. Hearing this, she paused, feeling suspicious. Secret base? Unnoticed, blood from the spot Shuan had pierced began to rise. In an instant, a small sprout emerged. Dai led her to a dark and gloomy cave. I didn't expect such a place beneath this small opening. Is this the secret base you mentioned? He nodded. I found this place by following a rabbit. Seeing Dai mysteriously reach for something, she asked, Dai, what are you hiding here? He replied with a hint of melancholy. I know we're leaving soon, but I've been preparing this gift for a long time. Dai's small hand pulled a porous stone out of the cloth bag. Shuan's eyes widened as she stared intently at it. The entire cave suddenly lit up, making her marvel. It's beautiful. Did you put luminous stones inside? Dai blushed, turning away shyly as he stammered. I was supposed to show you in 2 days. Touched, Shuan hugged him tightly and said, Thank you, Dai. I love this gift. His gaze suddenly shifted to her hair. Mother, on your hair. A bloodstain still lingered on the strand from earlier. Shuan picked up the lock of hair, her expression turning grim. This is bad. Dai, our location might have been compromised. He was puzzled. It was just blood that seemed to have a life of its own. Without hesitation, she tore it off. I've heard these ghost crows have formidable tracking techniques. They can use blood to find us. We must go. Dai happily reached out and made a suggestion. Mother, give the blood-stained hair to me. This cave is complex. I'm not sure they can find us through this. Hearing that, she was a bit skeptical but handed it over anyway. Rapid footsteps echoed through the silent forest. A finger snapped. The entire group came to an immediate halt. Danna looked at the small plant in her hand and said, It's here. Wang He, sitting on Yin Yang's back, asked, Master, where exactly is here? Danna pointed down and replied, Below us, right under our feet. He understood immediately. Oh, I see. As soon as Wang He jumped down, he spotted a small hole in the ground. So a cave was hidden here. Zhao Zhai looked at Danna and asked respectfully, Lord Ghost Crow, do you need me to punch a large hole or just collapse this place so they die inside? He replied flatly that there was no need as he wanted them alive. Looking down at the small cave, Dana felt a surge of interest, noting that reflecting the previous Ghost Crow's corpse made this bone bridge even more suitable than A Chuan, which was quite intriguing. A menacing grin then spread across his face as he decided to test them, addressing her as sister-in-law. Half an hour later, Wang He was in hot pursuit of Dai, calling out to the boy. He provocatively declared that he had no time for hide-and-seek, but Dai countered that it was uncertain who was playing with whom before gathering energy in his hand and firing 2 beams of light at Wang He. However, he managed to dodge the attack, and as he watched the 2 beams strike a tree branch behind him, Wang He sneered that the boy's effort wasn't bad, but it wasn't enough. Before Dai could react, the man leaped behind him and pinned him down, boasting of his superior skill. Yet a moment later, a smile appeared on the boy's face as Wang He realized he had only captured an illusion, and Dai asked if he was having fun. Staring at the empty space, he cursed in anger at being toyed with, wondering if his master was also chasing a clone. While elsewhere, Yuan asked Dai about his clones as they ran, and he replied that one of the pursuers had already been deceived. He noted that the other pursuer was too clever to follow, but reassured her that 2 more clones remained behind them to alert them of any pursuit, though she still questioned him with deep concern. Yuan told Dai not to overexert himself since she was not weak, but he smiled and replied that while he knew she was powerful, his new ability was also quite formidable. A sudden noise caused Yuan to freeze, and she immediately looked up with a guarded expression as Dana leaped into the air to evade her strike. Yuan looked upward and warily demanded that the intruder reveal himself, leaving Dai stunned and confused as to how the man had bypassed his clones to track them from above. Dana landed and gave a formal greeting, introducing himself as someone once favored by a Chuan and identifying himself as the new manager number 16, the ghost crow of the giant world. Yuan immediately dismissed his words, claiming she did not know him, and telling him to stop calling her sister-in-law before instructing Dai to leave so she could handle the situation alone. He approached slowly with a feigned air of generosity, claiming he was there to discuss peace, but Yuan shielded Dai and shouted at him to stop lying just as the boy called out to her from behind, causing her to turn in a panic. Yuan urgently asked Dai why he hadn't left yet and told him to hurry, prompting him to run while recalling her words about how she was incredibly strong and had never been defeated. She had told him that he must listen and stay away during her battles so as not to become her vulnerability, a promise he had firmly made to her at the time. As he fled, Dai reaffirmed his vow in his heart that he would never be her weakness, while Dana continued his slow approach, urging Yuan to listen to what he had to say. She coldly ordered him to stop talking nonsense, and the moment the words left her lips, her hair lashed out at him, though he managed to sidestep the attack. Enraged, Yuan challenged him to see how long he could keep dodging as her hair launched a relentless assault, leading Dana to marvel at her extraordinary combat prowess even as he defended himself. He declared it was time to extinguish her spirit as a few drops of blood trickled from his fingers, followed by a sudden strike that sent Yuan crashing into the wall behind her. Dai huddled in a corner, clutching his head and trembling while whispering that his mother was the strongest and would surely win, until the sudden sound of approaching footsteps startled him. Dai assumed a defensive posture and demanded to know who was there, only for a battered and bruised Yuan to step out from behind the rocks, prompting him to run to her in joy, celebrating her victory. Yuan smiled and stroked his head, confirming she had won, but Dai's joy turned to worry when he noticed the injury on her leg, though she quickly tried to soothe his fears. She told her son she was fine, but he anxiously protested her claim, leading Yuan to reassure him again that while she appreciated his love, she truly was not badly hurt. Looking up at her with tears streaming down his face, Dai vowed to become incredibly strong so that she would never have to send him away during a fight again. Yuan leaned down to gently wipe away his tears and promised that once he grew up and could defeat her, she would never make him leave her side, a deal to which Dai immediately agreed. Dai then turned his back to her and offered to carry her, making Yuan laugh as she called him a silly child and asked how someone so small could possibly carry her. He stubbornly insisted he was very strong, so she smiled and suggested that when he was grown and she was old, he could carry her on trips to see the world and eat fine food, which made his face light up. He agreed that it sounded wonderful and confirmed their promise as they walked hand in hand, with Dai happily asking where she wanted to go and what she wanted to eat so he could start planning. She called him her little treasure and told him there was plenty of time to plan as he grew up. But when he insisted on knowing her wishes now, she affectionately agreed to tell him. Lying in bed and looking at Dai, Yuan spoke seriously, acknowledging the hardships they had faced to get this far and noting that she knew how much he loathed the ghost crows. "You can never accept that your father is a crow demon," he interrupted her helplessly. "Mother, if you want to talk about him, then forget it." Seeing Dai about to leave, Yuan spoke quickly. "Dai, if your father hadn't given his bone sphere to your dying mother, neither I nor the child in my womb would have survived. I never told you because you were too young then, fearing you would investigate and get dragged into it. Dai turned back sharply, his voice questioning. What do you mean by being dragged into it? Haven't we been involved for a long time? Otherwise, we wouldn't have been hunted for over a decade. She then produced a small box and explained, they have been hunting us. On the surface, it's to reclaim the bone sphere in my back, but in reality, it's for this. Dai asked in confusion, what's inside? Yuan explained, you know that relics are formed from the evolution of matter on the membrane of the life core egg. Sensing Dai's unspoken question, she immediately answered, yes, inside is a rare active substance from the central region of the life core egg. Taking the object, he asked, active. Yuan gently entrusted him. Dai, you are stronger than me now. Your father's belongings are yours to protect. Only items from the central region can oppose him. With a serious tone, Yuan continued, becoming stronger is perhaps our... No, it is the only way for you to escape your fate. Hearing this, Dai was momentarily stunned. Yuan sighed and slowly explained, I once tried to surrender this for your safety, but the secret struggle among the crow demons has already pushed us to the edge. Look, Yuan's gaze turned sharp. We have no choice. We must keep fighting and grow stronger, even more powerful. Dai looked at the object in his hand and gripped it tightly. Then he tucked it into his waist pouch and stepped outside. He spoke to Xiao Lun and Dong Nan. It's getting late. Let's head out to find the Ying flower. Dai's eyes turned cold, his tone filled with confidence. Then we will shatter this world of giants. Xiao Lun looked at him and smiled. This guy has finally regained his spirit. Over the next hour, they visited 3 locations searching for the poison tree's Ying flower, but found no trace of it. Xiao Lun examined a giant egg. He whispered, Dai, the scent of this condensed egg is so strong. Can you really not smell it? If the giants follow the scent, we'll be in trouble. Dai replied, it's fine, I can't smell it. Can those guys really track it? As they returned to head for the 4th location, they noticed a massive rock shifting. Dai reached inside and pulled out a blue branch. Xiao Lun stared at the branch in confusion. Which part is the flower? Dai looked at it in shock. No, it hasn't bloomed yet, damn it. If there isn't even a stamen, it will take at least another 6 months for the Ying flower to grow. He worriedly said, 6 months? Then we can only wait and nurture it first. He frowned, 6 months is too long. My mother's leg is severely corroded, we can't wait. Suddenly, the rock shook. Before they could react, something lunged from beneath it to attack Dai. He quickly leaped up, avoiding the hand that suddenly emerged. Dai retreated and recognized a familiar figure. Wang He was sitting on Fan Luo's hand. He looked at them mockingly. Not bad, Fan Luo. Using a flowerless poison tree as bait was indeed a good choice. He humbly replied, my lord is still the superior one. To be able to distinguish the scent of the condensed egg and use its intensity to predict their path. Only then could we set the bait in advance. Wang He replied, they were persistent enough, not giving up after failing to find the flower several times. Dai glared at them angrily. Setting a trap for us is the same as seeking your own deaths. Wang He laughed disdainfully. Kid, it's been years, yet you're still so arrogant. Dai suddenly remembered and recognized him. You're that idiot. Hearing this, Fan Luo grew furious. You worm, how dare you be so disrespectful to the crow demon lord? Dai looked at Wang He and mocked. What? This fool became a crow demon. Can anyone be a crow demon now? No wonder they're all so pathetic. Just like your master. Didn't he eventually die at my mother's hands? Wang He replied calmly. Fortunately, my master has many lives. I am a living blood bank. How could he die so easily? You people are truly impressive. Thanks to your mother, we were stripped of our positions, becoming trash in the eyes of the crow demons. But then, a murderous aura radiated from Wang He. Now that we've returned, I'll use you to sharpen my blade first, Dai warned. Fang Xiao Lun, take the poison tree. I'll cover you. You and Dong Nan must leave this place first. He frowned. Dai, don't make me do things that sound so unpleasant. Ignoring Xiao Lun's protest, he shoved the branch into his hands. Don't talk nonsense, take it. Dong Nan also advised him. This guy's endurance has its limits. Dai turned to him. This is how my mother and I survived, by not being a burden to the strong. Dong Nan was instantly stunned. I'm the burden. Wang He smirked wickedly, telling them to stop stalling because he wouldn't let the 2 insect eggs leave easily without getting past them first. Suddenly, massive figures surrounded them, as he mentioned that his master was likely approaching his mother's location at that very moment. He claimed it would be quite a reunion, causing the other to look up in a panic and demand to know what he meant. Wang He nonchalantly remarked that his master was eager to see his long-lost mother, but Dai quickly denied it, swearing he wouldn't find her so easily. He told him not to mention the blood-tracking ability, but the man replied that blood tracking was merely a secondary method. He explained that the great lord accompanying his master possessed power beyond their imagination, leading Fang Xiao Lun to suspect it was the person Jai Xuan had mentioned, so he told Dai they had to return immediately. Though reluctant, Dai agreed to follow the plan since they offered to support him, and the three of them quickly searched for an exit. Dai signaled to Fang Xiao Lun and Dong Nan, who understood his silent gaze as he charged forward to draw the attention of Pan Luo and Wang He. Dong Nan unleashed two bursts of green light from his hands to strike at Pan Luo's vision, while the branch was handed over to the black egg below. Fang Xiao Lun grabbed the giant's leg and surged electricity into it, forcing Pan Luo to his knees as he roared in anger, asking where the Great Lord was. When an enemy tried to attack, Fang Xiao Lun used a control skill on him and ordered him to attack the other giants before turning to the black egg. He asked the black egg how many it could control if he adjusted the duration to 5 minutes, and it replied that it could manage 3 now that his childhood power had returned. While moving, Fang Xiao Lun questioned why the poison tree wouldn't bloom despite them having control over it. The black egg explained that making it bloom was currently beyond its capabilities, just as 3 more enemies lunged at them. The trio of giants tried to crush Fang Xiao Lun and the egg, prompting a worried Dai to look back, only for Wang He to attack him and reveal that the boy was their true target. As he prepared another strike, he explained that they had discovered a drawing on the ground while they were hunting them down. That drawing had marked the central location of the life egg, and Dai clenched his fists as he finally realized their true motive. He marveled that even the Great Lord didn't know this location, and told the boy not to stand in his way. Dai left a clone behind to stall Wang He and ran to help Fang Xiao Lun, but the man calmly asked what his limit for clones was. Just as Dai's 5th clone appeared, a pale blue net manifested and blocked him from moving any further. The net trapped both Wang He and Dai's clones, as he boastfully explained it was the spatial ceiling boundary, a new power granted by the bone sphere that only its energy could break. He turned back and mocked him, saying he had severely underestimated his opponent. Wang He gestured arrogantly, pointing out that even the clones outside the boundary were being suppressed by his sword's consciousness. Dai was stunned to see his other clones trapped, and wondered when Wang He's sword had even left his side. Wang He explained that he had devised a countermeasure after seeing his clone ability earlier, leaving Dai in a state of panic while the others remained silent. Thinking they had crushed their targets, the giants prepared to let go until Dong Nan rushed over, screaming for them to get off Fang Xiao Lun. A small spark of electricity suddenly erupted into a massive discharge that blew the giants back, revealing Fang Xiao Lun kneeling on the ground to protect the egg and the branch. The egg anxiously asked if he was hurt, and he replied he was fine, unaware that a drop of his blood had fallen onto the branch and caused it to vibrate. A small flower suddenly sprouted from the branch, prompting Fang Xiao Lun to joyfully shout to Dai that the poison tree had bloomed, drawing everyone's attention. Wang He was speechless at the sight, while Dai immediately urged Fang Xiao Lun to take the flower to his mother. Holding the toxic branch firmly, Xiao Lun declared that he would surely deliver the ying flower to Aunt Xuan. Dana, perched on his hand, turned to ask him, "My lord, it appears this path is no longer suitable for giants to traverse. Moreover, my blood tracking only reaches this point." Hearing this, Ren Ti looked at Dana with interest and remarked that his bone sphere ability was not yet fully mastered, then told him to hand it over. He replied, "My apologies, my lord, I must trouble you to read the memories yourself." He then ordered a subordinate to bring it over immediately, and the soldier complied, delivering the precious item to Ren Ti as the Ghost Crow Lord commanded. Sitting on the hand, he used a spoon to savor the delicacy. Once the dish was served, Ren Ti took a bite to taste it, and as soon as he did, he let out an exclamation. The flavor of a synthesized beast is truly atrocious. Upon hearing this, Dana apologized for making his lord endure such a thing, and Ren Ti began to understand the situation. "I've seen the memories from before this merman was synthesized. This woman named Xuan is quite a beauty by human standards." He then smiled instinctively, which confused the boy, before Ren Ti stood up and manifested a pair of wings behind his back with a sharp sound. With his wings deployed, Ren Ti turned to boast that it was time for him to move his body as well, then told Dana to come along, to which the latter politely expressed his gratitude. "I shall trouble you then, my lord." The two of them set off together toward their destination, while elsewhere, Xiao Lun pulled out the egg he had been keeping on him. As he held it, he pondered to himself, "Black egg, controlling these butterfly wings has certainly made us much faster, but is there any way to increase our speed even more?" The black egg replied that it had already integrated his own strength, and this was the maximum speed possible. Upon hearing this, Xiao Lun pushed himself to move even faster while deep in thought. "Damn it, it seems impossible to beat him there, so we must devise a plan to deal with that man." Seeing his concern, the egg turned to provide more information. "Xiao Lun, While we were at the ruins, I took the liberty of scouting the area and discovered that there are many hidden underground tunnels still in existence. I will transmit the map into your mind so we can examine it together. Following the guidance, he was surprised by what he saw and confirmed that there were indeed many secret passages. Seeing his urgency, the egg followed and asked what was happening, to which Xiao Lun replied that he had found 2 secret passages in Aunt Chuan's room before calling out for Huan Er. When Aunt Chuan woke up to find no one there, she asked in confusion why Huan Er had not yet returned, finding the situation quite strange. Manito rushed inside and cried out that something was wrong, prompting Aunt Chuan to ask in confusion if something had happened to the others. I stayed behind to look after you as instructed, but listen, the communication vines I placed outside the ruins have all lost their signals simultaneously. I am certain that someone has broken in. Aunt Chuan froze for a moment upon hearing this, while Manito fearfully added that anyone capable of destroying her communication vines so quickly was surely a formidable foe. Unable to remain calm, she stood up and asked for details, and the girl explained the peril, noting that the fireflies she used for communication had all been eliminated. The invaders have already reached the entrance. After hearing this, she fell into deep thought, realizing that the person who truly intended to kill her had finally arrived. After careful consideration, Aunt Xuan made her decision and ordered Nai Dai Niu to quickly inform everyone to evacuate the ruins through the North Mountain, to which Manito agreed. "Will return shortly." She immediately ran out to carry out her mission, but just as Manito stepped outside, a massive sound surged past her. This caused Manito to look back at the room in concern, and she rushed back to find the woman, asking why she had used her hair to seal the entrance. From inside, she remained on guard and told Nai Dai Niu that since she was their target, the girl must lead everyone else away immediately. Manito stubbornly refused to leave, insisting they go together since the entrance was still far, but she was shouted at and told that dozens of lives would be lost if she didn't go. With no other choice, she complied, promising to return after the others were safe and urging her not to overexert herself. After speaking, she ran to alert the others while Aunt Xuan remained behind, calmly closing her eyes to wait until the sound of approaching footsteps signaled that Dana and Ren T had arrived. She used her hair to shatter the surrounding walls, but by the time the two of them stepped inside, there was no one to be seen. Looking inside, Dan Nan saw only strands of hair and turned to the Lord, noting she had escaped, but Rent sensed something and chuckled. Just as they realized it, Xuan used her hair to strike. Hiding behind the bed, she peered out and recognized that it was him. However, he showed no fear and laughed as his power erupted, slowly advancing with his wings to find her hiding spot. Furthermore, Rent used the 3 eyes on his wings to declare he had found her, leaving her with nothing to do but sit in anxiety. He praised her as a beauty among humans, while she realized she had no chance of winning and feared her end was near, praying for Dai to live well. Unexpectedly, Xiao called out to Xuan, asking if she could hear him, and she immediately responded upon hearing that familiar voice. Xiao Lun confirmed his identity, explaining he had linked with her bone bridge through the black egg and telling her not to be afraid. With the black egg right beneath her, she anxiously asked why they had returned and if Dai was with them. He explained that Dai was facing a minor issue. He assured her Dai would arrive soon and had sent them to bring her the Ying Hua, but Xuan tried to stop Xiao Lun from entering such a dangerous place. She urged Xiao Lun to leave immediately, insisting she could handle it, but he ignored her plea and made a firm promise to stay. Xiao Lun told Xuan he must fulfill his promise to Dai and told her not to worry, instructing her to simply follow his lead. He told her to move 2 meters behind her to rendezvous with the black egg, and upon hearing this, she turned to look at the spot. Just as they were about to resume their attack on Xuan, loud thumping noises suddenly echoed from the ceiling as something ran back and forth. Rent looked up in confusion, wondering if a little mouse was hiding inside, but as he went to investigate, an attack struck down toward him. Rent looked up and sensed something peculiar, realizing someone was playing tricks above him, but then he suddenly froze at the feeling of the aura. In his transformed state, Xiao Lun looked down and urged Xuan to move back, and though she feared he had become the prey, he spoke with confidence. He told her not to worry and instructed her to drink the Ying Hua to neutralize the poison, then follow the black egg through the secret passage. He promised to reunite with her after subduing the enemy. Though she wanted to hold him back, she realized he wouldn't listen and chose to encourage him. She agreed to fight by his side once the poison was gone, and he happily accepted her support, eager for them to battle together. Dan Nan stepped forward and offered to handle the intruder above, but Rent stopped him, asking if he could not sense the presence. He explained it was the unique aura of a progenitor, a revelation that left Dan Nan bewildered as he questioned the term. Rent asked if the boy above was the rare specimen he had mentioned, and though Dan Nan was uncertain, Rent ignored him and soared upward. Rent decided he would simply capture and taste him to find out. While Zaya Lun sensed the approach and prepared to lead him away. He realized the man was indeed pursuing him, but Zaya Lun found it strange that he would try to force his way into such a cramped space. As he ran, he calculated his moves, knowing his combat state would only last for half an hour and that he needed to stall the man. He planned to use his corrosive energy to escape, though he and the Black Egg worried about how long he could actually keep the man under control. With his plan set, Zaya Lun poured all his strength into his legs, allowing him to weave through the obstacles with incredible speed. Rent found the boy's speed exhilarating, relishing the thrill of the hunt, while reminding himself to hold back so his prey wouldn't die too quickly. Meanwhile, the injured Xuan struggled to crawl away just as Dan Nan returned to the room, mockingly asking why his sister-in-law was hiding. He asked if she still recognized him, but suddenly froze when he saw the empty room, realizing she had escaped through a secret passage. Danon stubbornly searched every corner of the room while Xuan successfully escaped under Black Egg's guidance. Auntie Xuan, how do you feel after drinking the Ying flower essence? Xuan felt the sensation returning to her legs and noted they felt slightly numb, causing Black Egg to wonder if the dosage was insufficient. She refused the last flower, wanting to save it for Dai, but Black Egg sprinkled it on her wound, miraculously healing her leg instantly. Look, Auntie, it's working. Meanwhile, Rent relentlessly pursued Zaya Lun, launching one attack after another. However, he managed to gracefully weave through the strikes and successfully dodge before sprinting toward another location. Intrigued by his movements, Rent remarked, I see. Your blood is saturated with the black candy scent of Kafunu. Zaya Lun turned back to ask about the Kafunu black candy, and he explained it was a fruit from the most ancient tree of life. It seems you are a descendant of the Shenbing clan from the Egg of Life. Didn't your kind create and manipulate this egg-shaped world? He denied it, saying, no, the Egg of Life is merely a life-bearing vessel that we happen to seize. We still need to use people like you to explore many areas here. Zaya Lun approached to ask more about this life-bearing vessel. Rent smiled and shifted his tone. The most valuable thing about this vessel is that it led us to discover that fragrant and delicious existence. Zaya Lun spoke up in disgust. What delicious existence? You only do revolting things. Don't you humans also raise livestock for food? In essence, there is no difference between us. Zaya Lun was stunned and thought to himself, damn it, I can't even refute him. A voice called out in his mind. Zaya Lun, he replied, Black Egg, what's wrong? It reported that Auntie Xuan was healed and urged him to follow the plan. Black Egg replied, she refuses to leave and wants to fight with you. Zaya Lun, how are things on your end? Zaya Lun lied. Black Egg, tell Auntie Xuan that I've already escaped. It immediately exposed him. But Zaya Lun, we can still talk, so you must be within 300 meters. He confessed, Black Egg, Auntie Xuan and Shan Dai have given me hope that my real mother might still be alive. That's why I want Auntie Xuan to live. It replied, I understand. I'll make her believe you've gone far. Take care of yourself. He softly agreed. As they moved quickly, she asked, Black Egg, this path is the opposite direction of Zaya Lun. Where is our meeting point? Black Egg guided her, answering, the secret tunnels in these ruins are beyond imagination. We are still 500 meters from the rendezvous point. She noticed something was wrong. Black Egg, you're a terrible liar. I've been here for years, even if I don't know every secret path. She then demanded. Stop. It broke into a cold sweat, fearing it had messed up. She questioned, tell me, has Zaya Lun failed to escape yet? It tried to cover up. I'm not sure since we aren't within 300 meters, she said worriedly. Black Egg, I know you mean well, but you can't let Zaya Lun fall into danger for my sake. A scream rang out. Help, help! Xuan dashed toward the voice instantly. Black Egg and Xuan crawled through a pipe and saw a group fleeing, including a girl whose arm was bound by a strange purple object. Black Egg exclaimed, what is that? She replied, my husband said he can separate organs from his wings. I think they're called embedded eyeballs. Xuan used her hair to attack the eyeballs, but they nimbly evaded her. She jumped down to shield the group as Black Egg watched in shock. They were startled by her appearance and called her name. She asked, what happened? Weren't you leaving through the North Mountain with Mei Nai Nuo? The North Mountain exit is blocked by monsters. There are too many for Mei Nai Nuo to handle. Xuan was stunned. Only we knew about that exit. How did he find out and set an ambush? A voice came from behind. That's because the Great One ate your comrade's brain. It was Danon. He continued, I suggested the ambush. Xuan asked furiously, is it you? Are you trying to avenge your past disgrace? He replied, no, not at all. I've come to make a deal. She repeated in surprise, a deal? He cut to the chase, the active rare candy, I don't believe. That you used on that human, the dark one overflowing with energy, she thought. Does he think Zaya Lun's power comes from the active candy? No wonder he's been so relentless. Dana said, the Lord is fascinated by that boy, but I know better, don't I? Shuan shouted. What are you after? He proposed. Resonate the active rare candy to find the core and take him down together. Shuan remained skeptical. Take him down, did I hear you correctly? Dana said grimly. We're nothing but cattle to them. Shuan refused to believe him. I won't be tricked. You're all on the same side. Dana clutched his head in rage. The first time I hunted you, I risked my life for him. But do you know, after I failed, he devoured half of my brain. What? He continued. My perspective changed completely after that. Shuan asked doubtfully. Is that the truth? Wait, you're saying this right in front of the eye inlay. Aren't you afraid he'll find out? He explained calmly. The eye inlay is his own organ, but it can't hear. He won't know what we're saying. Long AI laughed as he appeared behind him. My eye does indeed have that flaw. Shuan cried out Xiao Lun's name when she saw the boy unconscious and being strangled in the man's grip. He sneered, but Dana, you didn't realize this boy and I have already finished our game. Dana's confidence vanished as he stammered. My lord. With a snap of his fingers, Long AI effortlessly eliminated Dana. He remarked, don't you humans have a word for ingratitude? It fits this fellow perfectly. Shuan screamed, release Xiao Lun. If it's the bone sphere you want, take it from me. He chuckled. Do you think I went through all this effort just for a single bone sphere? She countered. So it is about the active rare candy. Let Xiao Lun go, and I'll tell you whatever else you want to know. Long AI replied heartlessly. I'm tired of games. Interrogation is far too tedious. Wouldn't it be much faster to just read it directly? Shuan was confused. Read what? He pointed to his head and explained with chilling cruelty. I'll crack open your skull and savor the delicious marrow within. Both Shuan and Black Egg were paralyzed with horror. He licked his lips and mused, marrow that has pushed the bone sphere to its absolute limit must taste divine. Black Egg panicked. What should we do? Xiao Lun, wake up. Xiao Lun, it shrieked repeatedly. Xiao Lun, can you hear me? Xiao Lun. Long AI tossed the boy aside and he crumpled onto the ground. Shuan reached out through her thoughts. Black Egg, is Xiao Lun all right? It checked and replied. He's still in combat state. He's likely just unconscious. It's not life-threatening. She decided on a plan. That's a relief. Find an opening and get him out of here. Shuan's hair lashed out at him relentlessly, but it failed to leave even a scratch. He scoffed, is that supposed to tickle? How dull. I told you I'm done playing. In the blink of an eye, he seized Shuan by the throat while her hair struggled and struck at him in vain. Black Egg shrieked in terror. Let her go, he remarked casually. The stress response from the bone sphere will only make the marrow taste sour. Fine, I'll extract the bone sphere first. He noted Shuan's expression and added, don't worry. As I pull out the sphere, I'll simultaneously peel back your skull. Long AI smiled. The pain will only last 10 seconds. As she began to lose consciousness from suffocation, she whispered in her heart, Die, mother has to leave now. You must live a good life. Xiao Lun returned to the fray. He leaped up and grabbed the hand Long AI used to choke Shuan. The man was briefly surprised, but quickly regained his composure and smirked. You're being a nuisance. He slammed his arm down, the massive disparity in their height and strength becoming painfully clear. Yet the boy refused to let go of his wrist. The wings on his back seized the boy and slammed him into the ground with enough force to shatter the pavement. Black Egg cried out in worry, Xiao Lun, while Shuan screamed, forget about me, just run. He retracted his wings and remarked mockingly, I suppose I was a bit too rough. Turning back to her, he said, anyway, let's get back to it. Xiao Lun pushed himself up from the ground, struggling to his feet before lunging at Long AI with all his might, once again seizing the man's wrist. Long AI growled, you little brat. Shuan desperately tried to stop him. That's enough, Xiao Lun, he yelled back. No, I won't let him hurt you. Inside, he was frantically pleading. Corrosive energy, please work. I'm begging you. Losing the last of his patience, the man said, fine. I was going to save you for later, but that's no longer necessary. With those words, he used his wings to impale Xiao Lun. Shuan and Black Egg screamed in horror. Xiao Lun? He turned back to his task. Good. No more distractions. He seized Shuan by the throat and began to rip out her bone sphere. A blood-curdling scream erupted from her lips. With a sharp sound, the extracted bone sphere condensed into a solid mass. He hoisted her up by the neck with one hand, his eyes fixed on her skull. Long AI noticed the wound on her back and grew bewildered. What is this? Why are my fingers no longer under my control? He wondered as he turned around. That brat? He tried to grab his own wrist to stop the trembling. Confident in his own strength, Long AI scoffed. HMPH, you think you can control my body with such meager power? Manhwa seized the opportunity to mock him. Long AI, I never expected you to be toyed with by such a lowly character until you were spinning in circles. How truly ironic. He immediately recognized the voice. It was Manhwa, who clearly still harbored a grudge. How long has it been since we last met? Ah, it started when you stole my credit and framed me before the king. It's been over a year, hasn't it? Long AI was furious but helpless. Wang Hua, you really are petty. Do you intend to commit treason now? How dare you play tricks on me? Wang Hua replied with pride. Long AI, I am actually helping you. My new ability is called point image. I plant an image on potential criminals to eavesdrop. Whatever he sees or hears, I experience as if I were right there. However, Long AI still looked down on him. What point image? These are all useless abilities. Wang Hua, prepare to be punished. But Wang Hua was no pushover. Shouldn't you be the one receiving punishment? Wang Hua retorted. As Long AI feigned ignorance, the other man began to point out his transgressions. You still act so innocent. The order was clear. Any intelligence regarding rare candy must be reported immediately without unauthorized investigation or arrests. You, Long AI, have violated that order. He dismissed Wang Hua's argument. What unauthorized investigation? Can't you see? I was simply retrieving the bone bridge. Wang Hua then recounted Long Ai's true intentions. Weren't you just trying to pry open this woman's skull to extract intelligence on the candy? Suddenly, Xiao Lun leaped high into the air and snatched Chuan away from Long AI. Wang Hua was curious as he watched the man let them escape. Why aren't you chasing them? Do you no longer wish to read her mind, or do you want me to gather evidence and then personally deliver it to the king? Long AI was driven to the brink of madness. What exactly do you want? He realized the man was truly greedy. I want you to hand over the management of the giant world to me. Long AI felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Meanwhile, Xiao Lun sprinted away, leaving a trail of blood on the ground. He was consumed by worry. Aunt Chuan, how are you feeling? Chuan, resigning herself to fate, whispered, Xiao Lun, you silly child, don't cry. My destiny was decided long ago. It cannot be changed. He refused to accept it. No, you aren't going to die, she gently comforted him. Xiao Lun, everyone must die eventually. It is only a matter of time. Xiao Lun's tears fell uncontrollably. There must be a way, there has to be. Don't give up. Chuan's concern was simple. The one I am most worried about now is Dai. I fear he will throw his life away seeking revenge for me. He tried to run even faster. Aunt Xuan, please stop talking and rest. But Xuan only continued her warning. Xiao Lun, I beg of you, promise me you will stop Dai. If he recklessly seeks revenge now, he will only be throwing his life away. Xiao Lun pretended not to hear her. I won't promise. You have to tell him that yourself. She knew her time was running out. I don't know if I can hold on long enough to see Dai again. He firmly asserted. You will, you definitely will. Meanwhile, Dai was in a state of confusion. What on earth is this? Even the secret entrance to North Mountain is here. Dongnan felt the situation was becoming eerie and unstable, as they couldn't be killed no matter how they were attacked. He watched in shock as they flew away, wondering why they were all fleeing. Dai hurriedly gave chase, muttering about whether their mother was trapped inside. Mother, please be safe, mother. Although Dongnan tried to stop him, shouting, wait, don't be reckless. Dai felt an overwhelming sense of dread in his heart. Mother, Xiao Lun didn't stop to rest for even a second, holding on to the hope of saving Xuan. Auntie, please hold on. We will reach the exit very soon. Just a little longer. Xiao Lun struggled to help her maintain her breath. You'll see Dai very soon. The black bug was also in a panic. Xiao Lun, don't go any faster. Stop, stop. Did you sense that just now? Xiao Lun listened and came to a halt. I felt it, he said, immediately understanding what was happening. It's just like when we were looking for Hua Ying. The object in Dai's bag is resonating with us. Xiao Lun shouted. Dai is right above us, while they were deep within the maze. Wang Hua directly stated his terms. Long AI, as long as you hand over the management of the giant world to me, I can act as if I never saw a thing. Long AI saw through his scheme. You want me to recommend you to the king to take over this territory? Wang Hua understood the reality of the situation. Of the three worlds you manage, the giant world is the place you value the least, isn't it? Not only is it unable to provide food for the king, but it also possesses a fatal flaw. He couldn't fathom it at all. So what do you want with this remote place? Wang Hua didn't want to waste any more time. Stop being a problem child. You just need to decide whether to recommend me to take over this place or plead guilty and accept your punishment. Long Ai's rage could erupt at any moment. Well played, Wang Hua. He gave Long AI a choice. Listen to me, and at least you can retain control over the other two worlds. If you accept the punishment, you'll lose all three. Consider it yourself. He was so enraged that he ground his teeth. Wang Hua had long intended to retaliate against Long AI, originally planning to make him wait forever. But your remaining loyal subordinate allowed me to discover this startling intelligence. Long Ai's subordinate boasted proudly. Kid, while I was tracking your movements, I happened to find a drawing on the ground. That drawing marked the central region of the life delay. He thought to himself, why does the king value the central region so much? Though not explicitly stated, I know that a treasure exists in this central region capable of shaking the entire Wang clan. Wang Hua grew more confident. now that the entrance is hidden in some corner of the giant world. Do you think a petty matter like revenge still matters to me? Long AI looked closely at who the ultimate winner is. A small pouch hung from Dai's waist. Inside was a sensor box. He charged forward frantically. The sound caught Dai's attention. It was coming from beneath the floor. Suddenly, the floor was pierced through. Zhao Lun appeared at the edge of the hole, giving Dai and Dong Nan a heart-stopping fright. He breathed a sigh of relief. Dai had finally found him. He stayed right there as Xuan lay motionless in Zhao Lun's arms. Dai rushed over to check the situation, frantically asking, "Mother, how is my mother?" Zhao Lun finally managed to speak. "Auntie's bone bridge has been extracted." She suddenly woke up. "Dai, it's so good to see you one last time before I leave." Dai was terrified by his mother's words. "What do you mean, leave? Don't talk nonsense. You will live for 100 years. But Xuan brought up the past. "Dai, do you remember when you were little and secretly prepared a birthday gift for me?" Tears streamed down his cheeks. "I remember, of course I remember." She was truly overjoyed. "At that time, I felt like the happiest person in the world." Dai looked at Xuan, who was in agony. Suddenly, she made a request. "Dai, can you carry me on your back?" Xuan had once promised him, "Fine, when you grow up and I am old, you can carry me on your back to travel. We'll go everywhere and eat everything." Dai agreed without hesitation. "All right, that sounds like fun. Let's do that. Mother, where do you want to go most? What do you want to eat right now? Let me plan it." She wasn't in a hurry at all. "Silly child. There's still plenty of time until you grow up. We can think about it and plan slowly." But he still acted like a spoiled child. "I want to know now, tell me." Dai held her tightly and sobbed. Xuan was now on her son's back. He carried her as their friends looked on with pity. Dai was filled with regret. "Mother, I'm sorry, I never fulfilled our promise." Xuan blamed herself. "Silly boy. Didn't we say you'd carry me when I'm old? I'm not old yet. I'm just being clingy because I wanted my little treasure to carry me." He remembered Xuan's favorites well. "Mother, later we'll go eat the bamboo shoot stew you love most. And the gardens of Lingshan, where your favorite Edelweiss flowers grow. We'll go there too." She was reluctant to leave. "And then," Dai replied in a low voice, "the Nan Xuan hot springs." Xuan's hands went limp. "Mother, don't leave me." Dai made a vow at Xuan's grave. "Mother, I will surely avenge this. I'll tear that man to pieces. You once told me that the only thing capable of dealing with him is something from the central region. I will definitely find the central region, then grow strong enough to avenge you." Before that, he thought more maturely. Fang Zhao Lun had risked everything to bring his mother out, so I could see my mother one last time. I must repay this debt. After safely escorting them to Kalia City, I will begin my quest for revenge. "Mother, rest in peace." Dai pulled himself together. "Let's go, I'll lead you to Kalia City." 2 hours later, someone stepped onto Xuan's grave as a stranger suddenly appeared. Its form shifted. It turned out this individual was Yin Gui. He approached the bamboo stake and whispered, "Forgive me," as the earth was tossed aside. Yin Gui used his power to extract Xuan's memories. His brain announced that the generation was being copied. Yin Gui took the brain and installed it into his own head. The transformation occurred in an instant. Yin Gui successfully turned into Xuan. Before him was Dana's severed head, which was already very impatient. "Why did it take you so long to arrive? I've done as you asked. When can I meet Ghost Crow Zero?" Yin Gui seemed to be stalling for time. "What's the rush? Do you think the master is someone you can just meet whenever you wish? He is naturally worried. Aren't you concerned? The countdown for the Egg of Life's reset has already begun, and when time runs out, every creature inside will perish, meaning both of us will die. We must find an exit quickly." He specifically reiterated the assigned mission. "So you must understand that everything we are doing now is to prepare for finding the entrance and exit. The master's test for Fang Xiaolan is directly related to whether we can survive and leave the Egg of Life. Yet Dana still feels uncertain about whether the test on that boy is truly effective. He knows exactly which factors are vital. So isn't this test turning out better than expected? The central region has yielded no information for them to find new clues. Do you know that the central region corresponds to the main control room of the Egg of Life? That place can directly deactivate its reset mode. He proposed the idea that it could be shut down directly. In Leia Tree City, a man fled in a panic, cursing under his breath as he ran. "How did I end up targeted by the people of Gui Fang? This cannot happen. This brain core must not fall into their hands." The one pursuing him was Gu Jai. The weapon in her hand was exquisitely crafted. Gu Jai decided to strike the man from behind, leaving him utterly stunned. The man felt his body beginning to change and let out a wretched scream as Gu Jai simply watched him stop moving. The Gui Fang assassin, Gu Jai. She felt her efforts weren't wasted and told him not to forget to add this temporary mission to her rewards as overtime. But Yu immediately declined, lecturing her that he lacked the authority and she should tell the higher-ups herself. "Furthermore, I instructed you to handle it with care, for if the item is damaged, you get nothing." Gu Jai didn't care at all, muttering that he was a jerk who was both powerless and annoying. doing nothing but following orders all day. I am not a killing machine for you to keep locked up. You cherished the liquid inside the egg, relieved it wasn't ruined. She asked curiously what it was, and he calmly explained it was a new brain core cultivated by the Hai Lun people, a weapon they just developed. Gu Jai was skeptical, questioning if the Hai Lun were the most primitive tribe of the Egg of Life, noting that the man was so weak he definitely wasn't one of them. Gu remained unusually calm, suggesting the man was likely just a hired runner since the Hai Lun never show their faces. Gu Jai wanted to know why Gui Fang wanted to seize this brain core. He confirmed the reason, stating that Gui Fang had finished negotiating a partnership with the red-skinned mystery people, and their next focus would likely be dealing with the Hai Lun. She insisted firmly that she would not work for those red-skinned mystery people. Yu turned to leave, mocking her lack of choice and telling her to come along, as someone would collect the brain core soon, and they needed to return to the hotel. Gu Jai refused to accept her fate as a pawn, telling him to go ahead and mock her because this time she would definitely succeed in escaping Gui Fang. Just you wait and see. A girl's hands were bound by a lock and she was unable to speak. There was a keyhole positioned on the girl's chest. Gu Jai was extremely smug, thinking that after she stole this keyhole, the emperor must be looking for it, and she had already given enough hints. She could sense it, and Gu Jai became even more certain as she peered through her own eyes, looking directly through the deep, dark black hole. Fang Xiaolan wasn't surprised at all, wondering if she was spying on him, and noting that the woman certainly knew he was watching her. Dongnan wanted to confirm the location in southeast Leia Tree City. Dongnan asked Fang Xiaolan about the situation over there. He calmly described how she was pulling up the peephole now and walking around the room, noticing every small detail. There was a symbol of a winged fox on the wall, and he immediately identified the location as the Flying Fox Hotel, which was closest to the Wangla prison. He thought of the worst-case scenario, realizing the peephole was indeed for a prisoner being escorted, and it would be difficult to handle once she transferred the convict to Wangla prison. Fang Xiaolan was suspicious because she had arrived in the city long ago, yet hadn't handed over the prisoner, and her current actions were clearly intentional. She wanted to lure the snake into the basket. He then asked Fang Xiaolan for his opinion, and the boy, having already thought of a way, suggested using his remaining energy to manipulate a giant emperor to put on a show with Dongnan. Dongnan was utterly confused about what kind of show he meant. Fang Xiaolan wanted to give her a taste of her own medicine with a play to lure the snake into the basket, but Dongnan was worried about his health. Fang Xiaolan, forget the play for a moment. Your wounds are still bleeding, so are you sure you can keep going? Fang Xiaolan was completely confident, stating he was recovering at a high speed, and his combat state was so powerful he might even fight a bit longer. The black egg reminded Fang Xiaolan before he acted that if he had been hit in the heart, he would have died, and the recovery would be agonizing. But Fang Xiaolan teased that the black egg had developed quite a sharp tongue lately. It appeared troubled, and continued to argue that Xiao Ni had already exceeded the duration for maintaining his combat state. Yet Fang Xiaolan didn't understand. To put it simply, the black egg informed him that his current sustaining energy wasn't coming from it but from himself, making him feel fortunate. Isn't that a good thing? Furthermore, I noticed the black aura around you has returned. It felt dejected because it couldn't assist Xiaolan. I feel like I no longer have much use to Xiaolan, it lamented, but he gently comforted it, saying, silly, I am the one who decides your worth to me. It's not like that. You are very valuable, he said, making the black egg ecstatic as it asked how great its value was, to which he shyly replied that he wasn't good with words but meant it was immense. Not wanting to waste precious time, Xiaolan told it to rest easy as his body was fine, his eyes filled with determination. Now we should discuss how to stage the play to lure the snake into the trap. While nearby, Anjai wondered why its master hadn't returned to the meeting point near the Flying Fox Hotel yet. It moved forward off guard and was shocked to find a corpse, realizing it was the giant Fang Xiaolan had controlled, and was stunned after checking for a pulse. There is no pulse left, and Zhai thought as it began to panic and search the area, wondering where its master could have gone. Suddenly, it was startled to see Yin Gui kneeling respectfully before someone, reporting that he had sought them out due to an emergency, to which the figure responded cheerfully. It is fine, he said, before snapping his fingers and sending an egg-like object flying toward a surprised Njai. The object shattered right in front of Njai, releasing a white smoke that blinded it and knocked it to the ground instantly, allowing the man to calmly tell the other to speak. Yin Gui presented a box and asked his master to look at the egg brain they had swapped back before the ghost ward could seize it. The master understood their intent, noting that the Hai Lun people were preparing a parasitic egg bacteria array and suggesting they shouldn't interfere, but rather swap it back. It wouldn't be bad to let the red people have a taste of it, he said, while Yin Gui looked at the eerie egg brain and obeyed, though he mentioned he had been infected by the bacteria. He nonchalantly replied that the tiny egg bacteria were nothing and offered to remove them, prompting a grateful response from Yin Gui. Then he used 2 fingers to open a small rift in space, which gradually expanded under his control until it grew quite large. After a moment, an egg-like object called the incubator appeared, and as the man stepped inside, Yin Gui continued his report. Master, I must report that I have forcibly moved the portal created by Fang Xiaolan into the prison, he said, earning a satisfied praise from the man inside the egg. Excellent, you always keep up with my pace, he replied, as Yin Gui expressed concerns about Gu Jai's arrogant nature if she were to join Fang Xiaolan's camp. I feel it is inappropriate as she might look down on Fang Xiaolan, he said, just as several wires began to pierce through the shell of the incubator. The wires plugged into Yin Gui, as the voice explained that Gu Jai's parents came from a life egg, making her more beneficial than harmful to their cause. It is fine, as this is also a test for Fang Xiaolan, he added, and Yin Gui immediately complied before the man issued another order. By the way, there is someone in the prison who wants to meet Fang Xiaolan, so make the arrangements, he said, identifying the person as a Hai Lun member from the clone world. Yin Gui seemed to realize something as the scene shifted elsewhere, where Xiaolan voiced a question he had for Gu Jai. If you are a top-ranked assassin from the Ghost Ward with such formidable skills, why are you afraid of a minor giant, he asked, and she explained without hesitation. It wasn't fear. They were simply people sent by the Ghost Ward to supervise me, so there was nothing to be afraid of, she said, leaving Xiaolan even more puzzled by the term. She helplessly admitted that since she chose to meet him this way, she had nothing to hide, revealing that her body was infested with a special goo poison from the Ghost Ward. It circulates through my blood to keep me under control, she said, and Xiaolan realized her true goal was to escape from the Ghost Ward. Gu Jai quickly confirmed his suspicion, explaining that she had discovered the energy singularity during a mission to the land of nurturing and had been monitoring it until they arrived. He finally understood that she had found the singularity long ago, but he wondered why she hadn't found a way to leave after being in the giant world for so long. She explained her situation, which was quite difficult. Singularities appear very rarely. According to the information I have, aside from those, there are only the secret gates of the red-skinned people. Hearing this, Xiaolan was startled, suspecting she was referring to him. Gu Jai further explained that only the red-skinned people could open these secret gates. Furthermore, the gate's location is never fixed, making it impossible for ordinary people to use. Xiaolan guessed they must be guided by a red-skinned person, but she denied it, saying it was unrealistic. Their bodies wouldn't be able to withstand it and would be torn apart. Hearing this, he cautiously asked, "What about the ghost crow? How did he get through?" Gu Jai stated that the ghost crow possessed bone spheres, which seemed to be an evolution of the origin eggs. It was a mystery. Their number hadn't increased in years, with only 15 in existence. This news surprised Xiaolan even more. She continued, "I thought you..." But before she could finish, Gu Jai suddenly realized something. A moment later, she clutched her ears and collapsed, screaming in agony as Xiaolan watched in confusion. Gu Jai's face turned pale and dark as she struggled to speak. This is the Gu sound." At that moment, not far away, Du was playing a melody with his hands. His hands were riddled with holes like a flute, and the sound he produced drifted toward Gu Jai, causing her immense pain. Xiaolan panicked. "The Gu sound? But I don't hear anything." Clutching her head in agony, she explained in a trembling voice that it was a low-frequency sound wave. Only those afflicted by the curse can hear it. He observed Gu Jai, sensing she wasn't acting. Despite the pain, she whispered that she would enter the prison in an hour and that he should be able to manipulate the guard to follow. Surprised, Xiaolan asked, "How do you know I can control the giant?" She patiently replied that the energy embedded in the giant was identical to his own. Prisoners with gate holes are held in the high-security ward, a place guards usually cannot reach. Xiaolan's face was filled with confusion as he listened to Gu Jai. Xiaolan asked, "So you're saying we need to cooperate?" Trembling with pain, she forced out a yes. Gu Jai then fell into deep thought. "Since the gate hole isn't in my hands, I have no leverage to negotiate with him. I can only agree to cooperate." Du then spoke in a threatening tone. "Gu Jai, if you don't listen to me anymore, I will raise the Gu sound to stage 2. By then you'll be in so much pain you'll wish you were dead, so don't call me heartless. I must go now. I hope to see you both in an hour." she said as she stood up unsteadily, while Zio Lun watched her, lost in thought as he gazed into the distance. At that moment, Black Egg anxiously asked Dai about Zio Lun's situation. He shouted in a rage, "Damn it, my clone has been defeated. If my true self were there, let's see if he'd still be so arrogant." Sweating, Black Egg asked what the final outcome was. Dai turned his head and replied that Zio Lun's status was still unknown. "I hope the time I bought was enough for him to negotiate." Before he could finish his sentence, he heard a noise as Dong Nan and Yin Zhai slowly walked in. He anxiously asked them why they had taken so long to return. Dong Nan explained that they had been followed on their way back, while Black Egg flew around them, questioning them. "Was it another small giant following you?" Dong Nan coldly replied, "Perhaps." Dai questioned him, "Perhaps? Why perhaps?" Sweating, Dong Nan explained that he had no memory of what happened after he evaded the tail. Dai seriously speculated that their opponent might have the ability to lock memories, but wondered why they would erase his. "Yin Zhai, did you discover anything when you went to find him?" he asked. Standing beside Dong Nan, Yin Zhai could only shake her head, admitting she didn't understand and couldn't remember a thing. Suddenly, Black Egg spoke up. "What about the giant Zio Lun was controlling?" Dong Nan replied that the giant had returned with them and was waiting outside. Dai and the others then stepped out. He observed the giant carefully and said, "Now we can only wait for Zio Lun to return." Meanwhile, the giant stared blankly up at the sky. Suddenly, Dai spoke up. "It's true that the high-security ward in the prison is very difficult to enter. From what I've gathered, there are 4 levels beneath the prison, and the high-security ward is on the bottom floor." Zio Lun walked in and said slowly, "That's why it's hard for the giant outside to lead us there. I believe we should cooperate with Gu Jai. We must be cautious." Both he and Dong Nan grunted in agreement. Dai Lun then gave the order, "Let's go." They arrived at the dark, gloomy prison with its long corridors. He and his 2 companions stepped down from the giant's massive hands. He curiously asked, "Where is she?" Zio Lun looked around inquisitively, noting that guards usually stopped there. Before he could finish, Dong Nan shouted, "Over there." He pointed toward the high corridor above where Gu Jai was standing. She gestured with her hand and whispered, "This way." All 3 of them looked up at her. He and his companions ran after her. Dai asked, "Is the small giant not coming with us?" Gu Jai quickly replied, "There is only one exit from the prison's bottom floor. He's at the exit, so I definitely can't escape," Zio Lun said urgently. "We must hurry. The key will vanish in less than 2 hours." She panicked upon hearing that. "The bottom floor is vast. If time is this tight, I need you to share your vision to locate the keyhole." Surprised by her words, he asked, "I thought you already knew where they were being held." "I only know the general vicinity, but it's possible the prisoner was suddenly moved elsewhere. We must confirm it to avoid wasting time," Zio Lun said as he slowed to a stop. "I understand. Black Egg, come here," he called out, and it quickly produced the key. Suddenly, something erupted from the soil as bone shards shot up one after another, forcing Dong Nan and Dai to leap away. "There's a trap underground," Black Egg shouted, but the key in its hand was suddenly snatched away. The creature looked around in a frantic panic, completely bewildered. Holding the key, she called out, "Thanks for the key." It turned out Gu Jai had set a trap for him. Zio Lun chased after her, shouting, "Gu Jai, what kind of trick is this? Was everything you said a lie?" She used her magic to grow a wall of bone between them. Gu Jai calmly replied, "No, everything I said was true. It's just that I only trust myself." He slammed his hand against the wall of 1,000 bone shards in a fit of rage. "Damn it!" The man following Zio Lun was equally frustrated. "Don't let her block us, that wretched girl." Suddenly, his expression shifted to an eerie calmness as he spoke. "It's fine. She'll come back to beg for forgiveness because I'm the only one who can use that key." Meanwhile, in the depths of the dark Wang Luo prison, Yu looked up as a giant rushed in, shouting to his companions, "Did you hear? Ta Shan's body was just found in an abandoned building in the city." The others asked in shock, "What?" He recalled the massive giant with an eye patch and wondered, "Ta Sha?" The others whispered back to the messenger, "You must be mistaken. We just saw him a moment ago." Yu was startled and quickly stood up, whispering to himself, "This isn't good. Is that girl conspiring with outsiders? Is she trying to escape again?" Yu pondered. Meanwhile, Gu Jai clutched the key, thinking to herself that no one in this world could be trusted. She ran desperately, her mind filled with lingering thoughts. "Whether in the past or now, the only person I can rely on is myself." Gu Jai sprinted toward the door. "I want my freedom, and no one will stand in my way." She stared intensely at her target, a girl who possessed the keyhole, terrifying her. Gu Jai screamed in frustration when she couldn't insert the key. "Impossible! Why won't it even go in?" Gu Jai repeatedly tried to force it, but all her efforts were in vain. Unable to take it anymore, the other girl shouted out in anger, "If you're going to kill me, just get it over with." "Shut up!" Gu Jai's voice trembled as if she were on the verge of tears, catching the girl by surprise. "I can't give up yet." She formed a hand seal and aimed it directly at the person before her. The girl could not resist, her eyes widening in shock. The girl then collapsed, losing consciousness. In the cold corridor, Gu Jai used all her strength to lift the girl who held the keyhole above her head. Her eyes were wide with determination. As long as she could leave, nothing else mattered. Dai looked around and said, "Fang Zio Lun, this giant you're controlling must be terrible with directions. Weren't we supposed to reach the exit? Why does it feel like we're going deeper?" He replied, "A giant under mind control shouldn't be able to play tricks, right? Isn't that so, Black Egg?" Black Egg flapped its wings and answered, "Correct, any creature with a brain will obey once manipulated, unless he doesn't have one." Zio Lun quickly deduced, "If he were brainless, he wouldn't be following my orders to lead us." He turned his head and grumbled, "If only Gu Jai hadn't caused such a scene. Even if the guards come, it's best to stay put and wait for her." Dongnan said coldly, "She caused that commotion on purpose so we couldn't pursue her. But will she realize we're waiting for her at the exit?" Zio Lun turned to him and replied firmly, "That woman is very cunning. She'll definitely figure it out." The giant suddenly stopped and said, "I can't go any further." Zio Lun asked, "Why did you lead us to a dead end?" The giant hesitated before explaining, "No, it's down there. This is a shortcut. Once we pass through here, we'll reach the exit very quickly." After the group landed safely from the giant's shoulder, it spoke again. "Zio Lun, it turns out he's taking us through a shortcut." Zio Lun looked back, his mind filled with doubt. "That's strange. Why didn't he mention this from the start?" "Never mind. The most important thing now is to get to the exit." After walking back and forth for a while, he grew increasingly anxious. "We've been walking for so long, going up and down and turning in circles. This doesn't feel right." Suddenly, something appeared ahead that caught Zio Lun completely by surprise. A silent door suddenly appeared before them, and he shouted in a fit of rage that they were at a dead end. Realizing the scholar had deceived them by leading them to a prison, you broke into a cold sweat, feeling that something was wrong and wondering why he brought you here, while Dai fell into deep thought about the strange placement of this prison and the guards along the path. This was the only unguarded spot, leading Dong Nan to wonder if someone was inside, so he approached the door to confirm with a raspy voice. After peering through the small glass pane for a moment, Dong Nan announced that the room wasn't empty, but held a woman captive. However, it was strange that she was covered in a bubble-like layer, and suddenly, a transparent fragment of it flew right through the thick iron door. It pulled him in, causing everyone to scream Dong Nan's name as the bubble tightened around him, making it increasingly difficult for him to breathe. The woman inside screamed that if they didn't want him to die, that woman must return her belongings, while Zio Lun and the man tried to hold down Dong Nan's floating body, as Njai shouted urgently. Dai shouted that the master couldn't breathe and told them to break the bubble, but despite your best efforts, you couldn't pierce the membrane. It was bizarre that the membrane was impenetrable, but then footsteps approached as Gu Jai appeared in a girl's body and gave them an order. She told them to move him outside the line, prompting a surprised Zio Lun to call out her name and confusedly repeat her words about being outside the line. Hearing the noise, the woman in the room raised her voice and screamed that it was that wretched woman, demanding that she return her things immediately. She claimed nothing else mattered except the necklace, which made you wonder about it, while Dai turned to curse at Gu Jai, calling her a wretched woman. He accused her of stealing from the woman inside, but she ignored him and arrogantly ordered Zio Lun to put the key into the lock. She warned that you and the prison guards were closing in, and hearing this, you were stunned that the wardens were actually pursuing you. She screamed an urgent command for Fang Zio Lun to quickly put the key in the lock, or else they would all be captured. Suddenly, the woman inside whispered in a trembling, tearful voice, questioning if she had heard the name Fang Zio Lun correctly. As Zio Lun quickly inserted the key into the lock, the woman's voice suddenly called out, asking if it was him and claiming to be his sister. You could only stammer in response, questioning if she was really your sister. While in a gloomy night forest, black and white eggs swayed beneath an old tree. The white-haired man listened intently to a situational report about an ambush set after detecting abnormal energy, confirming that everything was proceeding according to his instructions. The white-haired man turned to Sukai and said the reinforcements were on their way, with orders to capture the black parasitic egg and its host alive. He added that anyone else could be killed, which excited Sukai at the prospect of a massacre, though the white-haired man cautioned him to retreat if he couldn't finish them quickly. Sukai's expression shifted as his excitement grew, and he asked if there was really someone he couldn't kill before breaking into a fit of crazed laughter. Startled by his aura, the white-haired man stepped back and cursed his superiors for pairing him with someone who became uncontrollable once he tasted blood. Yu Tian, who had been silent, asked the manager if he would be rewarded with an egg to consume on harvest day if they successfully captured the parasitic egg. The white-haired man gave a vague smile and replied that while a reward for his service was appropriate, whether it would be an edible egg remained to be seen. Yu Tian was too clouded to recognize the trap, so he simply wiped his mouth and smiled, expressing his anticipation for the possibility. 5 minutes earlier, Xiao Lun had lost control when the woman called his name and claimed to be his sister, leaving him stunned as his mind raced with the thought of her being his sibling. As Yu and the others closed in on Xiao Lun, the cave began to shake, causing panic until Njai announced that they had finally returned. Suddenly, Xiao Lun grabbed Gu Jai's arm and demanded to know who the woman was, since she claimed to be his sister, while Gu Jai looked tense and tried to calm him down. She urged him to wait as the hounds behind them had followed them into this world, but Xiao Lun was far too agitated and continued his frantic interrogation. "No, explain everything to me right now. You aren't leaving until you do," Gu Jai sneered. "Do you really think you can stop me if I decide to go?" She glanced down at the hand gripping her arm before looking up at Xiao Lun's face. She was startled to see that his entire body was shaking. Ultimately, she couldn't bring herself to refuse. "Fine, I will tell you," Gu Jai said as she crouched to rummage through her backpack. "Lily, that is how the ghost ward refers to her. I doubt that is her real name," she added solemnly. "The reason for her pursuit is unclear, but rumors say she killed a red-skinned mystic. The ghost ward accepted the contract to capture her." He was stunned that she had killed one of them. Gu Jai continued, "Yes, she is formidable. Every assassin sent after her vanished. The ghost ward had no choice but to send me and 4 top-ranked assassins to corner her, and even then we barely managed to seize her." She pulled a pendant set with a blue stone from her backpack, identifying it as the one she had mentioned. Xiao Lun took the jewelry and examined it intently. The gem set into the surface was a blue jewel of exquisite color. Dai approached and remarked casually, "You wretched woman, there must be something else, right? Why don't you bring it out?" Gu Jai gritted her teeth, irritated by his choice of words. "I am getting it now. Stop calling me such foul names." He remained focused on the pendant in his palm, turning it over several times before prying it open. Beneath the gemstone lay a photograph. It showed 2 siblings embracing and laughing joyfully. Upon seeing the image, Xiao Lun seemed to recognize something as fragmented memories began to flood back to him. The sister in the photo was carrying her sobbing younger brother with a tense expression. "Xiao Lun, we must leave. Be good, eat this, and just go to sleep. I hope nothing has happened to your parents." He clutched his head, repeatedly crying out for his sister. As the memories faded, Xiao Lun gradually regained his senses. "Sister, she truly is my sister." Meanwhile, Dai was still preoccupied with the items Gu Jai had pulled from her backpack. He grumbled, "So you wretched woman stole her belongings because you wanted this star crystal egg all for yourself." His insolent words left her fuming with rage. "If you keep your mouth shut, no one will think you are a mute," she snapped. Dai continued to chatter, noting that star crystal eggs fetched astronomical prices in the giant world. And Jai wondered if that was indeed the star crystal egg when suddenly, the mask on Dong Nan's face began to crack. His eyes widened in shock as the fissures expanded and fragments began to fall away. Shadow lunged from behind with lightning speed, slicing the black egg in 2. It was none other than Dong Nan. Xiao Lun watched the scene unfold in shock. It felt as though a bolt of lightning had struck right beside his ear. No one could have anticipated what had just occurred. He cried out in terror, "Black egg!" Dong Nan did not stop there. He reached out and snatched half of the egg. In a flash, Dong Nan vanished without a trace, taking both the black egg and Xiao Lun with him. The onlookers could only cry out in astonishment. Gu Jai gasped. He was so fast, in the blink of an eye. Dai continued to curse. "What a fraud. Is that really the same Dong Nan?" At that moment, Xiao Lun was being carried over Dong Nan's shoulder, still in a state of bewilderment. "How strange. Why am I completely unable to use my strength? Where is the black egg?" The man seemed to sense his thoughts and offered reassurance. "Do not worry, Xiao Lun. I am merely severing the parts connected to the black egg. I am doing this to save it." Xiao Lun suddenly realized something and cried out, "That voice! You are not Dong Nan. Who are you really?" The man wearing Dong Nan's face gave a cold sneer. "In the life delay, everyone refers to me as Zero." Meanwhile, outside the tunnel, Yao Tian's group remained waiting anxiously. Losing his patience, he asked, "Manager, why is there still no movement? Shouldn't we just charge inside?" The white-haired man replied, "Haste makes waste." Suddenly, a peculiar gust of wind swept past, causing the tall grass to sway. Su-er looked up, sensing something, and immediately gave chase. Seeing this, the white-haired man asked, "Su-er, what is it?" He replied as he ran, Something is wrong, something definitely just flew past us. Both Yao Tian and the white-haired man were stunned, but Su did not look back. He sprinted toward the direction where the object had vanished. The manager cried out, inwardly complaining about the nuisance, while Yao Tian showed no intention of leaving his position. He remarked indifferently, "Manager, that man is being far too sensitive. The owner of that black egg is not that powerful. If he had passed by, I certainly would have noticed." At that moment, Dai and the others rushed outside. He cursed as he ran. "You bastard Dong Nan, you defeated dog, stop right there." Njai struggled in Dai's grip and cried out, "Let me go this instant." He turned to glare at Njai and snapped, "Your master has captured Xiao Lun." One by one, those who could escape the shadow limbs struggled desperately. That person wasn't the master, so he gave them no chance to explain. "Shut up," he barked, refusing to listen to any more nonsense. Still unwilling to yield, he shouted a threat. "Listen here, you're lying in wait with Dong Nan's group, aren't you? Come out on your own." Surprisingly, people actually emerged from the bushes. It was Yao Tian's group with the white-haired manager and Yao Tian leading the way. 3 eggs followed behind them. He scratched his neck, wondering to himself, "Wait, this isn't the kid I met, but he's holding a black mutant egg. Why is there only half of it left?" The white-haired man remained stubborn, insisting that even if it was only half an egg, they had to seize it. Gu Jai turned to Dai and asked, "Can you handle this alone?" He let out a cold snort. He replied sharply, "HMPH, you foul woman, I wasn't counting on you anyway." She flashed a bizarre smile and offered a reminder. "Just so you know, I sense many energy signatures approaching this location. It's best to finish this quickly." Dai's face darkened with rage as he snapped, "Look at you acting all arrogant. Why don't you deal with your own lapdog first before talking?" Gu Jai turned to Yu and instructed him, "You, stop following me. You are free now, so let us go our separate ways." Yu replied respectfully, "You cannot leave yet. We must find that black-clad brat so he can lead us back to the giant world." She laughed loudly. "I went through so much trouble to get here. There's no way I'm going back." Yu suddenly said something completely out of place for the situation. "In this case, would you like to hear me play some music?" Without waiting, he brought his hand to his mouth. He began his performance without caring for Gu Jai's permission. Seeing this, she gnashed her teeth in panic and hissed, "Damn it! Fine, I get it. We'll go find Fang Xiao Lun." Gu Jai leaped forward, lunging toward Yao Tian's group to block their path as she declared, "You all must die." Yao Tian, still oblivious to the gravity of the situation, continued to laugh and joke. "So a beauty comes to fight? I won't go easy on you just because you're a woman." The manager, eyes filled with killing intent, ordered, "Soldiers, hold her back. My target is the 2 mutant eggs held by that long-haired man." Yao Tian chuckled and replied, "Understood." Gu Jai wasn't alarmed at all. Instead, she seemed somewhat excited as she moved as fast as a lightning bolt. A single straight slash left Yao Tian and the 3 eggs unable to dodge, cutting them all in half. Gu Jai tilted her head, revealing a smile as lethal as a venomous snake's fangs. It was a look that completely clashed with her gentle features. Meanwhile, at another location by the lakeshore, the abandoned Xiao Lun was dazed, trying to keep himself awake. "I'm so sleepy. No, I can't fall asleep." He wondered where he was. Behind Xiao Lun, Zero was busy working on a corpse, connecting half of a black egg to a much larger one. He wondered what that man was actually doing. Dong Nan was using strange equipment to connect to the slumped body of the deceased. He muttered to himself, "I'm seeing if he's qualified to become a puppet." Hearing this, Xiao Lun was stunned. "A puppet? Wait, you can hear my inner thoughts." While busy with his modifications, Zero kindly explained, "I can hear you through the small embryo on your back." Only then did he notice a strange device attached to his spine. "So you put this on me. No wonder I can't move." He turned around with a cold, expressionless face and said, "Don't be in such a hurry. Once I'm done fixing the black egg, it'll be your turn." Xiao Lun was horrified by Zero's words. "Fix? What do you mean? You mentioned removing the linked part of the black egg earlier. What does that involve?" The black egg hovered in the air as countless strange tentacles from a larger egg began repairing it. With that same cold expression, he said, "Surveillance organs were implanted into both your brain and the black egg. Half of the black egg's body has been compromised and must be excised." He was paralyzed with fear by Zero's calm words. His mind was in a daze as he wondered, "It's in my brain too? When was this organ even implanted?" While continuing to repair the devices on the corpse, he explained, "Usually, it happens at birth when the connection egg is consumed, but for you, it was likely when you were about a year old. At that time, I had just adapted to this body, so I couldn't help you even if I wanted to." Xiao Lun lay face down on the rock, his mind reeling from the information he had just received. He asked again, adapting to the body, "Aren't you just Dong Nan's split personality?" Zero replied, "No, Dong Nan is only 22, whereas I have lived for over a century. Over 100 years, he cried out in shock. Zero smirked and said, "You're confused, aren't you? That's because I am a parasitic brain living inside Dong Nan's head. We currently share the same body." Zio Lun could hardly believe his ears. He wondered, living for over 100 years, a parasitic brain. What on earth are you? Zero frowned and asked, a thing? Why would you call me that? Although I don't have a body of my own, I also come from Earth. I am indeed a human. Zio Lun asked dazedly, Earth? He stood up and explained, since you were born here, you likely haven't heard of Earth. That was my original home. My name is Lu Tinghai, and I was an unlicensed doctor. Although my life wasn't very honorable, it was quite thrilling, and I enjoyed it. Zero stepped closer to him and said, until I encountered the red-skinned people who suddenly appeared. Zero knelt on one knee beside Zio Lun and recounted how he became part of the first group of Earthlings placed into the life egg. Hearing this, he cried out, the first group? You entered without even investigating the purpose of those red-skinned people. He didn't answer, only silently continuing his story. Earth had become uninhabitable for humanity. When hope appeared, do you think people could still remain calm? Zio Lun's eyes widened in shock as Zero continued. We humans, when given a few benefits by humanoid creatures, immediately assume they are our brothers. So 15 pioneers were sent in to scout the situation. He was stunned. 15 people, exactly the same number as the bone spheres. Zero's eyes grew somber as he said that as pioneers, they all had to undergo compatibility training from the red-skinned people. Zio Lun realized something and asked if that training was actually preparation for the bone spheres. He replied that more specifically, they were being modified. They were also given several secret orders. He was startled and asked, secret orders? Only then did Zero's gaze turn frantic. Kill the owner of Bone Sphere number 0 and take his place. That was the order I was given, Zio Lun exclaimed. What, weren't you number 0 from the start? Seeing that the truth was out, he didn't hide it and admitted that he was actually number 15, the very last one. He questioned if the red-skinned people wanted them to slaughter each other, then asked about the others' orders. Zero explained enthusiastically that everyone's orders were different, known only to themselves. Zio Lun asked if the orders were delivered through the linked eggs, noting he had one too. He replied no, food eggs are low-level and cannot convey orders directly. It is the host egg. He asked in a panic what on earth that was. Perhaps even Zero didn't fully understand it. He said information about the host egg was very limited, and he didn't know much. But one thing was certain, it came from the core zone. Hearing that familiar area, Zio Lun asked, the core zone again? Zero leaned on his hand and shared the information freely. Whether this host egg was originally there or mutated after entering remains a mystery, he said cryptically. His vague words piqued his curiosity. As the mystery grew, he wondered what the ultimate purpose of his current actions was. Zero turned serious. He stated his goal word by word. My purpose is simple. I want to leave the life egg before the reset. He stood up, and Zio Lun watched his movements, questioning what he meant by a reset. He calmly explained that it meant the life egg would return to its most primitive and chaotic state, at which point every living creature would face an overwhelming catastrophe. He cried out in shock, but Zero ignored him and turned toward the giant egg. Before the reset, there is a cooling-off period for the creatures inside to make a choice, either leave or stay. However, the current situation is that the red-skinned people have sealed the exit. He screamed helplessly, do these red-skinned people want to trap us here so we all die? He turned back with a calm expression, saying that those beings only think about food and merely want to harvest food eggs on a massive scale before the reset. Zio Lun asked how much time was left before the reset. Zero touched the black egg to check it and replied that there was less than half a month. He was stunned, his hands trembling as he clenched them, saying he couldn't stay there forever because he had to return to the giant world to save his sister. He turned to him, noting that since he killed a red-skinned person, the monastery was just a temporary stop. She would likely be moved, possibly to this side of our world. Zio Lun was startled by this news and let out an involuntary cry. Zero kindly explained that the scale on this side is the largest, so the transfer will take place here. As usual, the red-skinned people will gather to select their merchandise, then open the exit to take them outside the wall for the royal family's enjoyment. While adjusting the black egg's position, he said that because his sister committed a grave crime, the red-skinned people would divide and eat her at the product selection assembly. Zio Lun was horrified to hear about her being divided and eaten. Zero looked grave and serious, stating that if he wanted to save his sister, he had to act on the day of the harvest. All right, the little black one is ready. Zero pulled the black egg away from the tentacles and said nonchalantly that it was his turn. He looked over and told him to wait, as he wasn't finished asking questions. The device on Zio Lun's back activated briefly, causing him to faint unexpectedly outside the core area of the life egg. The Rent Transition Zone, the captain of the special search team under the Red King pleaded for mercy, but Ming Jiu remained indifferent. Do not look at me with pleading eyes, he said in a hollow voice. for you have all misunderstood the true definition of the reset. Rent was shocked by this news and cried out, but Ming Jiu glanced at him and explained it was not a sudden disaster but a purging process as he approached Rent, and the black mist faded. A grayish brain was revealed as Ming Jiu drew closer, his voice echoing like a night forest as he declared that the core had shifted from creation to destruction. With countless egg sacs hanging above, Ming Jiu remained composed as the apostles of evil prepared to be born and finalized the reset process. Standing before the brain like a supreme deity, he commanded all living things to prepare for what was coming. Just as the scene shifted to Xiao Lun pausing for a moment, he looked to his side and gave a warm smile, asking Hai Dan if he was awake, while Hai Dan looked up at Xiao Lun and Xiao Nen, wondering where they were. Xiao Lun leaned down to explain that they were at base 0 beneath the lake cave, and as he lifted Hai Dan, the latter asked in confusion about the base, while Xiao Lun's expression turned gray. You have been unconscious for several days, and I will explain everything soon, but we must hurry as the harvest begins in just 2 hours. We need to prepare quickly, he said, just as Dai, Yu, and Gujai approached with 2 other eggs, and one of them began to speak. I have been waiting for you to wake up, Hai Dan, Dai said, prompting Hai Dan to ask in surprise why Gujai was there, and why there were 2 more eggs before Dai explained their plan to split up. Gujai and I will disguise ourselves as food to infiltrate the Red Skins product testing meeting, while you stated he would stay on the periphery to provide support and relay information. When Hai Dan asked about himself and Xiao Nen, Xiao Lun poked his head out and said they would work with Zero to locate his sister and find the Eggman's whereabouts. Hai Dan was surprised to hear about the Eggman, but Xiao Lun nodded and confirmed that the person in charge of the harvest had been replaced. The replacement is the Eggman, who will provide the escort out of the city walls, though Zero does not have much information regarding him. However, I heard that the knowledge of the Life Egg's entrances and exits has been passed down to the Red Skins, which left Hai Dan feeling puzzled. He asked if that was to control and find the exit, but Xiao Lun looked at him and explained that there were many variables since they didn't understand the Eggman yet. We originally planned to rescue my sister and escape the walls with our allies by disguising ourselves as high-quality food, but he feared the Eggman would see through the disguise Zero had created. Hai Dan asked if the Eggman was truly that formidable, and Xiao Lun replied that he had a body like a pine nut kernel and could see through any object. Hai Dan wondered if they should destroy the pine nut body, but Gu Jai interjected that Zero believed the Eggman's power was certainly not inferior to that of the Red Skins. Since he is difficult to eliminate, we need to use your power, Hai Dan, which left the latter confused as he asked if they meant his energy manipulation. He argued that Xiao Nen could use that power himself, and that it hadn't worked on the Red Skins before, but Xiao Lun immediately disagreed. No, we need your ability to stop time, Xiao Lun said, but Hai Dan helplessly explained that he could only stabilize an opponent's energy. He added that those frozen remained conscious, and time did not actually stop, but Xiao Lun revealed that Hai Dan had stopped time 3 times during his coma. Hai Dan was stunned, as Xiao Lun explained that time had truly stopped for dozens of seconds, during which only Xiao Lun was able to move. Hai Dan was bewildered and claimed to have no memory of it, but Xiao Lun recalled that he had been mumbling about being in a dream at the time. Xiao Lun told him to think back on the dream, and Hai Dan suddenly remembered seeing a massive head that called out to him in a deep voice. The voice told me to take its hand and rebuild the world from the realm of death, Hai Dan said, explaining that the brain was inviting him to join it in destroying the heavens and earth. The other 4 looked at him in shock as he continued, describing how he then saw another version of himself that only had half a body. It wanted me to be loyal to that massive brain and attacked me relentlessly. It said these dreams kept appearing, but before it finished, Xiao Lun looked back and spoke up. Black Egg, you've stopped time again. It flew up and looked at the other 3 in a daze, seeing that everyone had indeed been frozen in place. By the way, Xiao Lun, why did we stop? He stood up and replied that it was to get a sample from the egg person to help Zero find its weakness, as the black egg asked timidly. So where is Zero now? Xiao Lun answered that he had already set off, which left the black egg feeling quite puzzled. What, aren't we acting together with him? How will we contact him? Xiao Lun pointed to his ear, explaining it would be through the device that looked like a mole. Simply visualize the person in your mind and command a connection to link with them. To end the conversation, just issue a disconnect order. An electronic beep sounded as he reached out to me, and then a voice from the other side spoke. Xiao Lun, I have located the Red Tribe's base. It is currently situated right beneath the school you attended. Xiao Lun was stunned under the school. He immediately hurried toward the campus. He carefully avoided the gazes of others while Black Egg remarked, Xiao Nen, I finally understand. Zero is actually another personality of Dong Nan. But why does everyone trust him so much? This reset is just something he claimed on his own. Zio Lun looked back and replied, "We didn't believe him initially, until he showed us a certain video clip." It looked at him skeptically. Recalling the footage, Zio Lun's face turned pale with terror. It was a video of a being from another life form being hunted from the center to this place. Black Egg asked anxiously, "Zio Nen, are you saying the one being pursued is from a different life egg?" Zio Lun nodded, having learned this from a conversation between two humanoids. It wondered, two of them, he recalled and replied. Yes, these two humanoids were competing to hunt that person, and during their struggle they mentioned the reset. Then Zio Lun offered his theory. Those two humanoids must be competing for the leadership position in the reset process. Black Egg seemed taken aback. Competition? While scanning his surroundings, Zio Lun continued his conversation with Black Egg. They mentioned a mastermind. We suspect that might be their superior. They are vying for the favor of this mastermind. It paused as if realizing something. The mastermind. Could it be that giant entity I saw in my dream? Confirming the area was safe, Zio Lun moved quickly. That is very likely. As they walked, Black Egg asked hesitantly, "So how was this footage obtained?" He replied, "According to Zero's analysis, it was likely copied from a human retina." He kept looking around vigilantly as he walked. Black Egg continued, "Is that person still alive?" He answered quickly, "That is unclear. After all, the footage isn't the original, so the clarity is quite low." Suddenly, that voice rang out again. "Zio Lun, over here." Zero was standing before the door of a conference room. He smiled at Zio Lun. Beneath the school, two figures were moving in a hurry. As he ran, he looked up at the strange objects mounted on the walls. "Are those things on the wall what the Red Tribe uses for surveillance and defense?" He replied decisively. "Exactly. I have already conducted a study on them." Still appearing skeptical, Zio Lun asked again, "Are we truly invisible to them right now?" Zero replied, "If you conceal your energy, they won't detect you. After the training I gave you, now is the time for the test." Inside Zio Lun's bag, Black Egg suddenly felt anxious. "Zio Nen, I've never trained. I don't know how to hide my energy." He looked back and explained, "Don't worry, Zero has already applied a membrane to you that can mask your energy." It was surprised. "Oh." Then it asked, "Have you found my sister's location yet?" Zero, who was ahead, replied, "Zai-Hai has already found it for us." Zio Lun was immediately overjoyed. "That's wonderful. We finally found her." Black Egg asked in confusion, "Zio Nen, who is Zai-Hai?" He reminded it, "The person who previously lay in ambush outside the cave to attack us. After being modified by Zero, he is now on our side." It felt a bit apprehensive. "Modified?" Zero, running ahead, suddenly spoke up. "Zio Lun, although we found your sister's location, however." Zio Lun asked worriedly, "What is it?" He replied, "Right now, those men are heading toward your sister." Hearing this, Zio Lun was filled with both surprise and anxiety. Elsewhere, several people cried out in admiration. "A goddess is truly a goddess. Strange, how did I not notice such a beauty in this school?" Yu Jai happily basked in their admiration. "Who is she? Who is she? She's so seductive." Dai, walking beside her, only felt annoyed. "I told you not to dress so provocatively. Look at how many people are staring now." She retorted angrily, "What do you mean staring? Those are eyes filled with infatuation." He laughed casually and said, "Infatuation? You really don't know your place. Just don't get in my way and that will be enough." Yu Jai looked down and mocked, "In your way? On the contrary, just make sure your hand doesn't suddenly transform into a giant's." "Hey, can't you see it's already healed? You really need to get your eyes checked." She frowned and complained, "Talking to you is truly exhausting." Suddenly, a sound echoed in his ear. "Dai," he paused for a moment and asked, "What is it, giant lure?" Elsewhere, the other man lowered his voice and requested, "Help me keep an eye on that girl." Dai was immediately stunned. "Follow her." "Hey brother, we're about to lose our lives, so why do you still care about her? Are you still stubbornly insisting on taking her back to the giant world?" Yu immediately denied it. "No, I'm just..." He quickly interrupted him. "You just like her, don't you?" Yu stammered in denial. Don't talk nonsense." Dai smiled teasingly. "This guy..." The harvest is about to begin. Then the eggs above everyone's heads began to drain something from them. Back beneath the school, Zio Lun asked urgently, "Is that where my sister is being held?" Zero immediately stopped them. "Wait, both of you stop." He looked at him doubtfully. "Zero, could it be?" Zero replied, "That's right, it's Mingjiu." Mingjiu was standing right in front of them now, accompanied by two of his followers. "We're too late. This egg person has already met your sister." Fan Nan sent a telepathic reminder. "You don't need to worry about her. He won't attack." Regarding the food source shared by the Red Skins, Zio Lun pursed his lips in confusion. Why did he come to see her specifically before the harvest? He raised an eyebrow and explained, He likely wants to extract some information from your sister. Fan Nan's words made him even more suspicious. Information, he predicted seriously. I suspect it's information regarding the world of the clones. Hearing this, Zio Lun was startled and skeptical. The world of the clones? Is that where the egg of life is? Fan Nan looked at him and corrected. It's inside a different egg of life. The more he heard, the more shocked Zio Lun became. You mean she was in a different egg of life before? He replied softly. I'm not sure about that. You'll have to ask her. He was clearly still tense after the telepathic conversation. Fan Nan didn't say much more and turned back to the main topic. Zio Lun, the egg person is right there. Now is the time to use your abilities. He peeked out slightly to look at Mingjiu and his group as Fan Nan hurriedly reminded him. Because once time stops, only you can move. While transmitting, he handed over a tiny vial. Use this to lightly scrape him and collect a tissue sample. Zio Lun took it and asked, will this injure him? Fan Nan quickly reassured him. No, it's just like a thin veil brushing past. Hearing this, Zio Lun felt relieved and prepared to act. I understand, Black Egg. It appeared immediately. I've got the main point. The Black Egg's entire body began to emit a blue glow from its magical power. Immediately after, time came to a halt. Fan Nan asked somewhat doubtfully, it stopped. Zio Lun, if we've frozen time, why don't we just kill this egg person directly? Mingjiu stood perfectly still without any movement. Zio Lun quickly leaped up and left his position, answering as he approached him. This egg person holds a major secret about the exit. He can't die yet. Besides, it's unclear if he can even be killed. What if we fail? The distance between Zio Lun and Mingjiu closed. Before we rescue my sister, we can't alert the enemy. He slowly took out the vial. Now, just a light scrape on his neck and Zero will find his weakness. In Zio Lun's sight, the back of his neck was exposed. This should do it. But before he could act, something flashed by so fast it left no afterimage, startling him. Zio Lun turned his head in confusion. Dazed, he kept asking, something definitely just flew over my head. Black Egg replied, that's impossible. We've already frozen time. It could only sweat helplessly. I don't understand what that was either. After a moment of silence, Zio Lun looked around in all directions. Strange, is it not showing itself? Black Egg hurriedly urged him. Forget it, Zio Lun. Our time is limited. Don't worry about it anymore. Right, let's get the sample from the egg person first. Zio Lun finally reacted and rushed forward, but suddenly, several strands were thrown out. They tightly bound his arms and waist. Zio Lun turned back in shock as the object suddenly yanked him backward. He was lifted off the ground and pulled into a side path. He finally regained his footing and saw it was Li Cheng. The boy smirked and reminded him, he uses multiple bodies. Taking a sample is useless. Hearing this, Zio Lun was stunned. Multiple bodies? Li Cheng continued. Don't take the risk. His main body is outside the egg of life, not this guy in front of you. This body and the main one aren't on the same level. Their material compositions are different. If you want a sample, only the main body has research value. Furthermore, I advise you to stay away from him for now. If his true form discovers you, you will never escape his grasp. With those words, he slowly released Zio Lun. Li Sheng then moved gently toward Mingjiu as the boy watched in shock, wondering why he was being held. He simply turned his head with a serious expression and signaled for silence. Zio Lun stared at Li Sheng in a daze as the latter smirked and looked back. Why? Because I want to take him down too. Immediately, time resumed its flow. Unaware of what had transpired, Mingjiu lowered his head to speak when he saw him. Li Sheng, why did you follow me? Don't go wandering off, Mingjiu scolded. The boy obediently replied, yes, father. Hearing that title left Zio Lun in utter shock. Father. After that encounter, Zio Lun and Fan Nan had to rack their brains for a new plan. Since they shared a body, it seemed they couldn't start their move with the Eggman. He suddenly recalled a detail. The child called the Eggman father, suggesting a paternal bond. Resting his chin on his hand, he pondered whether that relationship truly mattered. The fact is, he helped us. We might find another breakthrough through him, he noted. Zio Lun hesitated, pointing out that their information was still quite limited. Fan Nan tried to reassure him. Don't rush. He will surely seek us out again. As they were discussing this, a sudden noise nearby startled them both. Directly beneath them, two subordinates were passing by. Zio Lun quickly recognized the person they were taking away. Sister, he exclaimed, turning his head. Clenching his fists, he suggested, Number 0, I think now is the right time. Let's make the switch first. Fan Nan asked uncertainly, but the black egg just used its power. Can it do so again so soon? Zio Lun turned to him with confidence. Can the black egg and I practiced this several times on the way here? The black egg then spoke up slowly. That's right. There is only a 1 or 2 second delay. Fan Nan tilted his head hesitantly. The main issue now is the yin gooey ring. Reading your sister's brain will be difficult. With that, he reached out and pulled something out between 2 fingers. Held between Fan Nan's fingers was the yin gooey. When the black egg stops time, The Yin Gui won't be able to read anything. Furthermore, letting it get too close might alert those two red-skinned men. He calculated seriously. We can split the time freeze into 3 intervals. Finally convinced, Fan Nan listened as Xiao Lun leaned in to ask, Yin Gui, you can shrink your body at will, right? It replied firmly in the affirmative, which put his mind at ease. All right then, Black Egg, freeze time once more. Xiao Lun immediately dashed off, carrying the Yin Gui as planned. The Black Egg asked him doubtfully, Xiao Lun, as long as this Yin Gui can read the brain, it can transform into someone else's appearance. While weaving through the subordinates, Xiao Lun replied, exactly. We practiced the illusion a few days ago, and it was a perfect match. He leaned in close and attached the Yin Gui to her, knowing it only needed to hide in her hair for 2 minutes to finish reading. Before leaving, he gently patted her head to comfort her. Sister, just wait a little longer. Once the Yin Gui is done, I'll swap you out. Once he was certain everything was in place, he left with peace of mind. The scene shifted to another location where a group of people walked with eggs on their heads. Yu, Jai, and Dai were blending into the crowd. She warned him, the egg selection branches are coming up. The path for the highest quality food should be the middle one. They quickly joined the line for inspection, with Rent standing just ahead of them. To avoid drawing attention to him, a red-skinned man stood guard. Yu Jai glanced over and reassured Dai, noting that the man looked as if none of this concerned him. He probably won't notice us, Dai agreed. We've suppressed our energy to match the levels of ordinary humans. As long as you keep your expression neutral and walk through like a drone, we'll be fine. She then sent a silent message. Worry about yourself first. They're about to use the crystals for identification. Food selection is based on the crystal's color, with purple representing the highest quality. Blue is next, and yellow is the most common. Yu Jai thought seriously, recalling that the stolen crystals she had tested several times before always turned purple. Passing through here shouldn't be a major issue. She then stepped forward for the inspection, and the scanning device was quickly brought close to her. After a few seconds, the machine turned purple. Yu Jai breathed a sigh of relief, seeing that there were indeed no problems. Once finished, she turned and headed toward the middle path as planned. Rent, who had been quiet until now, suddenly looked up with interest. Yu Jai walked past him without any expression. Only after passing through without hindrance did she celebrate inwardly. I made it through. Behind her, it was Dai's turn for the inspection. To his surprise, his result came up blue. Dai stared at it in shock, wondering, that's strange. Why is it blue? Scene shifted to where Yu Jai was walking. Though she appeared calm on the outside, she was panicking internally. Dai, what did you say? Blue. Why is it blue? He replied through a transmission. I don't know either. I asked number 0, and he said it might be because the absorption was too fast, which boosted the Spirit Stone's data. She brushed that issue aside to focus on a more critical one. But blue and yellow eggs result in the immediate separation of the egg from the person. What do you plan to do? Dai was forced to choose a more hazardous path, wondering how to create a distraction so he could move quickly after faking his death. Gu Jai suggested he escape first, but Dai dismissed the idea, noting that this side was currently impassable. Before him stood a group of giants ravenously devouring eggs, their hands moving incessantly as they ate without pause. They ate as if they had been starved for a long time. Dai observed the situation seriously, noting that many red people had gathered there. It was soon his turn, as they had come to sneak a meal before the eggs divided. Upon seeing Dai, the man's attention became entirely fixed on him. Jai was uneasy but had to accept it, trusting he could handle such a small matter. Dai gave a firm reply, and after their discussion, she followed the crowd forward. The scene shifted back to Xiao Lun's original position, where the two giants continued to move despite the black egg's time stasis. Xiao Lun grew anxious, cursing the fact that the time freeze had no effect on them. The black egg spoke slowly, noting that 0 had also been stopped. Ultimately, he had to let the matter go, realizing that time suspension only worked once on the red people. It sighed helplessly, wishing it had saved his sister first. Xiao Lun then turned to consult with the black egg. He asked if the two of them could handle the two red people, but it immediately rejected the idea, stating that while 0 might manage one, they were outmatched. They would struggle even against a close attendant, and since the red people could communicate with each other, reinforcements would arrive swiftly. Failing to save his sister would only turn them into criminals. As it spoke, its voice grew faint, admitting they were still too weak, prompting Xiao Lun to tell the black egg to deactivate its power. If the two red people discovered others using time, it would be disastrous. The black egg obeyed immediately, and PHNAM finally spoke, noting that since the ability only worked once on them, they were out of options. They decided to follow the original plan and seek an opportunity to swap his sister during the tasting party. Since she held the silver laurel, they could still receive timely updates. Xiao Lun agreed, seeing no other choice. Before that, he told the black egg to stop hiding in the bag and instead let him disguise it as a high-quality edible egg for convenience. Having heard the plan, it didn't dare refuse. The scene shifted to an elevator where Gu Jai was accompanied by 6 others, having waited a long time to gather 5 high-quality eggs. She frowned, hiding her emotions, realizing that with such limited numbers, the risk of being exposed while blending in remained high. After a while, the elevator stopped, and the group exited. Before them were 5 others confined in cages, leading Gu Jai to silently remark on the cleverness of using cages. Gu Jai moved to stand level with them and began to contemplate. There were fewer than 10 people in total, and the cages were quite small. Based on nearby energy sources, there were 2 more cages filled with people 50 meters to the left, and the tasting party was likely directly beneath them. As expected, a large hall lay below where people were chatting boisterously and exchanging cheerful remarks. Gu Jai eventually deduced that there were only 4 mysterious red people in the hall. Meanwhile, a voice nearby questioned her in shock. It asked if her mind was clouded, as she usually would have sensed the danger. Gu Jai inwardly retorted that she would decide whether to leave, reminding it that risk and opportunity go hand in hand. Her words left the other party helpless, but it insisted the situation was different. Gu Jai gave a faint, imperceptible smile, sensing that an opportunity was right beside her as Li Sheng watched from above. Seizing the moment, he jumped down and stood behind Gu Jai, calmly asking when she had first noticed him. He reassured her, stating he had blocked their senses so their conversation wouldn't be overheard or interrupted. Li Sheng pressed closer and climbed onto Gu Jai's back. She quickly realized he had been secretly following her since they descended. She correctly guessed he was the child Fang Xiao Lun had mentioned. He playfully praised her for remaining so composed. Gu Jai finally spoke, asking what he wanted them to do. Li Sheng replied that he liked her straightforward and decisive nature. At his call, Li Ya slowly peeked out, her appearance leaving Gu Jai stunned to see a young girl. Li Sheng then proposed turning her into an egg. He planned to swap her with the egg on Gu Jai's head. Though the suggestion startled her, her expression remained unchanged as Li Sheng began to state his conditions. "If you help me get her outside the wall," he stated firmly, "I will help you deceive them." Gu Jai made her decision immediately. It seemed an opportunity had found its way to them. The scene shifted elsewhere as Xiao Lun and PH Nam decided to blend in with the crowd. The black egg asked curiously, "Xiao Lun, what did Gu Jai say? Why the sudden change in route?" While infiltrating the high-quality egg formation, he explained that she was currently speaking with the little dragon man, Li Sheng. Specific details would have to wait until she made contact again, but she warned him to be wary of number 0 nearby. Hearing this, the black egg grew even more confused as Xiao Lun wondered to himself. The little dragon man told her that the current number 0 is actually a clone. Upon hearing this, the black egg became even more bewildered than he was. "A clone? What on earth is that? Wait, was he always a clone, or has he been replaced?" Xiao Lun replied that he wasn't sure, but they hadn't trusted him much from the start anyway. However, the transition between Dong Nan and number 0 didn't seem fake at all. "Is that something a clone can actually do?" it asked, sweating nervously. "Exactly. Could he have been replaced when he went to the processing grounds early?" Xiao Lun reassured it. "Don't overthink it. At this stage, we can only stay vigilant and adapt to the situation as it unfolds." Suddenly, the black egg remembered. "Xiao Lun, what about your sister? If we all head toward the high-quality egg team, how will we save her?" he replied quickly. "The little dragon man said she holds a massive secret and cannot be allowed to die, so they will secretly move her outside the wall. The person they saw earlier was just a dragon man transformed into her likeness." It wondered if the little dragon man might be lying. Xiao Lun firmly asserted that he trusted his intuition because he had felt a strange aura when he touched her head earlier. The black egg asked hesitantly, "So where is your sister now?" Xiao Lun replied that Gu Jai only mentioned those 2 things, but he guessed she would be taken outside, as the exit could only be created near the wall. Only then did it switch topics. Itachi had been stationed outside to investigate the exit. If his sister were taken out, he will definitely notify us. "Right, so what about that?" Xiao Lun and PH Nam's group had now been ushered into the elevator. He replied inwardly. His egg was stolen and eaten by the red-skinned people. After discussing it with Gu Jai, I've decided to meet Itachi before planning our next move. Suddenly, the black egg asked repeatedly, "Xiao Lun, I don't quite understand. You said the exit was man-made, but what happened to the original life egg exit?" Xiao Lun explained that after the red-skinned people locked it from the outside, the gate seemed to malfunction. "It can't be opened anymore." It seemed to piece everything together. "So the current method for creating an exit was taught to us by the egg people?" He quickly confirmed it. "That's right. Finally, their elevator stopped on the 4th floor. The two of them were led to a large cage where they stood before the entrance with two others. Xiao Lun speculated silently that the four of them were likely the final batch of high-quality eggs. Suddenly, their surroundings shifted. Are we going down? He realized that the red-skinned people were growing impatient. Not only theirs, but other cages were also being lowered. A voice rang out. The banquet officially begins. Please take your seats, distinguished guests. Xiao Lun, PH Nam, and four others were atop the cage, while the cage next to them held Gu Jai's group. Numerous eggs and brains were laid out on the giant's dining table. They quickly took their seats as Siwu turned to ask, "How many high-quality eggs did we get from this harvest?" Another replied that for some reason, many had died along the way, leaving only 25. Bai Lin smirked and spoke animatedly. "Then we won't be able to enjoy more high-quality eggs. Splitting them right here on the spot always makes them taste fresher." Long AI immediately chimed in happily. "Don't forget, we have the right to choose two to eat right here." That information left him and the man stunned. Choosing two right on the spot? Even she was equally shocked. They seemed not to notice and continued their chatter. If that's the case, who knows how many more will die after entering the exit? By the time the final shipment reaches the king, only a few will be left. He began stuffing food into his mouth while saying, "Who told the life egg's energy outside the wall to be so powerful?" He then asked excitedly. "The egg people said the medicine has been improved, but I wonder if it's still effective." Suddenly, Li Sheng appeared out of nowhere right behind Long AI. "We'll know the actual results when the time comes, my lords." Immediately, he and the man beside him turned around in shock. "Li Sheng, you're always so elusive. Where's a Fu?" A Fu still has some business to attend to and will arrive a bit later, so he asked Li Sheng to serve you all. Hearing this, Long AI remained silent and pursed his lips while Black Egg, feeling uneasy, asked Xiao Nen if he had taken the medicine before entering the exit. Xiao Lun replied with certainty that artificial exits must be synchronized with the wall's energy frequency, which requires medication. Otherwise, the energy would tear one apart. Upon hearing this, he felt a bit hesitant, while Bai Lin urged Long AI to make his choice and pick 2 eggs for the kitchen to prepare, a task he happily accepted. "Look at how much your mouth is watering." "Fine, I'll go choose now," he said, while Black Egg stood there trembling with fear, worrying that if Xiao Nen was recognized, they would be finished. He quickly reassured it, telling it not to panic because they were in combat mode earlier, so the man wouldn't be able to recognize them. Long AI stood up and walked toward the iron cages, where he rested his chin in thought and began to carefully consider his options. Generally, those with superior physical strength produced better eggs, and as his gaze swept over each person, Long AI finally seemed to have found what he wanted. His eyes happened to land on Xiao Lun and PH Nam, causing him to grin widely, but Lu Sheng suddenly appeared and intervened, claiming he also liked those two. His words provoked the man, who wondered why a lowlife like Lu Sheng would think they shared the same taste. Thinking this, Long AI feigned a smile and pointed elsewhere, telling Lu Sheng he was wrong and that he actually wanted the 2 eggs on the sides. Thanks to that, they escaped danger, and Lu Sheng then offered to help carry the chosen eggs to the kitchen for him. The man politely declined, wanting to personally experience the fresh taste, and Lu Sheng didn't say more, acknowledging that the man truly knew how to enjoy a meal. Having listened to the conversation, Xiao Lun couldn't help but marvel at how this little dragon man seemed to have these people under his thumb. After some time had passed, Long AI successfully obtained the 2 eggs he wanted, leaving the 2 victims collapsed on the ground as he prepared to open one. He intended to open one first to prove his keen eye, but Ming Jiu suddenly rushed out to stop him, shouting that it couldn't be opened before knocking the egg away. The egg flew through the air and smashed against the wall, and as it broke in half, a mass of black slime was revealed inside. Mingjiu explained that these were eggs the Black Wheel people had secretly infected with bacteria, leaving everyone stunned, while Xiao Lun remained confused about who they were. As the egg leaked black fluid against the wall and everyone's attention was diverted, the person whose egg had been taken began to move his fingers. He looked around and resolved to kill at least one of them before he died, while Long Eye's expression turned grim. Taking the opportunity, the man attempted a sneak attack on the Redskins, but he was immediately impaled by the man's wing. Mingjiu then walked slowly toward the cages and suddenly teleported, stopping right in front of the cage holding Gu Jai, which terrified her. She tried to remain expressionless as Ming Jiu stared into her cage, remembering that the little dragon man had entrusted her to him. She told herself she had to stay calm and not show any weakness, just as Lu Sheng was also slowly approaching. His nervousness was evident as he stared at Ming Jiu's back, but suddenly, Ming Jiu fired an attack at the adjacent cage, exposing a hidden member of the Black Wheel people. Ming Jiu calmly stated that the 2 eggs containing latent bacteria had been destroyed, before heading back to report to the group. He informed the lords that he had to transport this high-quality batch of eggs immediately and would not be attending the trial of the woman they had previously judged. Long AI was puzzled by the haste, noting that the trial was the highlight, but Ming-Jiu explained that the king had issued a new secret order. He claimed he was merely following instructions, a revelation that stunned the group, and Long AI then turned to Si Wu with suspicion. He asked Si Wu, who was closest to the king, if he had heard anything, but the man replied that the king had not disclosed anything to him. However, he mentioned that Len, who had been searching for the ring core, had apparently returned alive, leaving Long AI in a state of shock. Ming-Jiu said nothing more and bid farewell to the lords, stating that time was of the essence and he had to get to work. He ordered the combat engineers to bring the bronze mirror gate, and his subordinates quickly complied with his command. Long AI hesitated, questioning the use of the bronze mirror gate, but Li Sheng stepped in to explain his father had specially crafted it. He smiled warmly, explaining that this gate was different from the one used to enter the inner world of the eggs. He claimed the gate was harmless to the human body, though he was secretly seething with rage behind his friendly facade. Li Sheng ignored Long AI and ran toward his father, asking if the bronze mirror gate meant the production and export sites were set. Ming-Jiu calmly instructed him to help transport the high-quality eggs, and he obediently agreed to do so. Ming-Jiu then informed the lords that he had located a suitable spot near the wall to create an exit. He suggested they use the bronze mirror gate to reach the location directly to save time, which greatly pleased Si Wu. Si Wu praised Ming-Jiu's thoroughness, and the operation proceeded quickly under Li Sheng's direction. As the captives entered the bronze gate, Xiao Lun secretly asked Dai if they had already reached the stage of creating an exit. Dai and Yu watched closely, as he replied that the engineers were currently embedding a strange object into the wall. Dai observed the scene intently and described a peculiar creature with scales and a body resembling an insect. Nearby, Ming-Jiu's subordinate held an insect that let out a cry as he thrust it against the wall. It used its horns to latch onto the wall, emitting electrical sparks while two masked men searched through a suitcase. Yu watched from the shadows, wondering if they intended to form a triangle while the engineer rummaged through the chest. He noted that the substance inside the suitcase looked like mud, as the man molded it into a bizarre shape. While watching, he telepathically asked Dai if he had seen any sign of his sister during the journey. Dai reported that although he hadn't seen her, someone could easily be hidden behind that massive bronze mirror. Yu looked toward the giant mirror and silently acknowledged the possibility as the atmosphere grew heavy. A pair of legs emerged from the bronze mirror, and Li Sheng rushed over to report the count of eggs and people. With a joyful expression, he asked if they were making 31 pills, and Ming-Jiu handed him an object. Ming-Jiu told him to make a few more, and Li Sheng took the bullet-like item, wondering if the extras were for them. Ming-Jiu frowned and asked Li Sheng if he hadn't already promised to return quickly, meaning they didn't need to follow. Li Sheng remained expressionless but clenched his fists, realizing that the man never intended to let them leave. When Ming-Jiu called his name, he snapped back to reality and promised to wait obediently for his return. Ming-Jiu nodded in satisfaction and dismissed him, while Li Sheng walked away thinking they were merely discarded lab rats. He didn't care about his own fate but looked at the captives, hoping that Liya would be able to live a good life. Li Sheng stood before the swirling spatial portal and slowly reached his hand into the empty void. His hand was immediately pulled in by a powerful force, and his pained expression left the onlookers feeling confused. Something suddenly protruded from the gate, and in the blink of an eye, an orange blossom bloomed as Li Sheng pulled a bullet-shaped object from his clothes. He decisively uncapped the vial and poured the liquid onto the stamen, causing 3 long filaments to sprout and green fruits to manifest, while Ru and Dai stood by in utter amazement. He questioned if the fruits on the stamen were medicinal, suddenly remembering that such an item existed within the ghost ward, where the superiors worshipped it as a divine relic. He looked over with a skeptical gaze at the divine relic, and Ru nodded, explaining that this calamity was reportedly retrieved from the central zone while Dai restrained the man. His expression turned to one of pure shock as he wondered if this calamity was similar to egg nectar, and if this individual was the human survivor who had escaped the forbidden zone a century ago. Ming-Jiu stood to one side, staring silently at the flower stamens and the fruit growing upon them as Li Sheng slowly lowered himself. He immediately turned to report, "Father, the sound frequency has been adjusted." Satisfied, the man raised a finger and replied, "You've worked hard." Glowing green fruits began to shine on the long stamens before flying straight toward Ming-Jiu, who counted exactly 33 in his palm. Observing silently, Yu realized this item couldn't escape the little dragon man's notice. He nodded, recalling Guo Jai's warning that obtaining this fruit was nearly impossible. He narrowed his eyes, calculating his next move while waiting for the blood to circulate through his body, his gaze suddenly turning fierce. He remembered lying on the ground with Li Sheng standing over him, asking if he was Dai, and mentioning that Guo Jai had likely spoken of him. Dai kept his eyes tightly shut and remained motionless, but Li Sheng told him to stop playing dead and just listen while holding a small bottle. "This bottle contains my own blood," Li Sheng said to himself, explaining that Dai and his companions only needed to mix it with their own. Once it circulated, their skin would match his, allowing him to help them reclaim the eggs and trade them for edible ones with the team. Back in the present, Dai pursed his lips as Yu stared in shock, exclaiming that Dai's facial skin tone had completely transformed. Startled, Dai turned around and was horrified to see that Yu had undergone the same change as they waited for the blood to finish its course. Li Sheng approached with his hands behind his back, asking his father if the medicine was effective despite absorbing so much of his blood. His father nodded, sending a telepathic message that they were now waiting for the little dragon man to help them infiltrate the group. Seeing Li Sheng's fawning smile, Yu hesitantly recalled a bounty in the ghost market for any trace of the extinct dragon men. Dai remarked with a sigh that he never expected to see a real dragon man, though Yu wondered if mixing the blood would truly let them recover the eggs. Yu vowed to go out and personally kill that wretched red skin to avenge his mother, then asked Dai if he was certain the man was outside. Dai frowned, confidently stating that Zio Lun said the man had already departed, though he didn't know the man's name, only his tall stature. Upon hearing this, he proposed a hypothesis, asking what if the man was still within the walls, but Dai shook his head firmly, trusting Zio Lun. Dai's gaze remained fixed on Li Sheng within the crowd as Ming Jiu stepped forward and placed a hand against the protective barrier. Ming Jiu began to channel his power, making Zio Lun wonder if he was opening an exit, recalling Guo Jai's mention of red skins using specialized gloves. Black Egg was confused by the term specialized equipment, so Zio Lun explained that only red skins could operate them. He added that the little dragon man claimed those gloves were actually made from someone's skin, a revelation that horrified Black Egg. As the two of them watched intently, Li Sheng appeared behind them and announced with a smile that it was the perfect time to help them get the eggs. The atmosphere turned silent as the eggs above the crowd began to glow, and the walls shifted, Ming Jiu's power carving out a gateway. He looked at the scene with suspicion, wondering if this was truly the exit, and once he was finished, he turned back to face the group. Immediately after, Ming Jiu snapped his fingers, and the fruits from earlier shot out one by one, flying directly in front of them as everyone opened their mouths. Not knowing his intentions, Zio Lun also opened his mouth as a fruit flew in. He chewed it and noticed a distinct almond flavor. Instantly, 2 black eggs appeared on either side of Ming Jiu, taking on the likeness of his face as he commanded everyone to follow him inside. Dong Nan was the first to enter, and he followed behind with clenched fists, thinking, "Zio Nen, we are finally about to reach the outside of the wall." Hearing this, Zio Lun whispered a soft "Ma" and hurried through the gate, scanning his surroundings as soon as he reached the other side. One by one, the group followed the black egg inside. Perched on his head, Zio Nen broke into a cold sweat, wondering if this was truly the interior of the wall. "For the first time, I can't discern the boundaries," Zio Lun muttered in doubt, wondering if the place was truly this vast. The black egg pondered before shaking its head, explaining that it didn't understand either, as the space seemed composed of tiny specks of life with no borders. Catching the black egg's words, Zio Lun was puzzled by the mention of specks of light, as the two of them silently ventured deeper into the immense void. Back outside, an eerie silence hung in the air until Long AI emerged with a grim expression. He scanned the crowd and spoke, "Very well, everyone has arrived. Take your medicine and enter." He eyed the massive suitcase with suspicion, asking Ming Jiu what the luggage was for. Ming Jiu simply smiled and patted the case. "It's just some of my research findings," Ming Jiu replied. Long AI raised an eyebrow in interest, asking if he could share a bit, but Ming Jiu carefully chose his words to decline without causing offense. "Of course, my lord, but time is of the essence. If we are late, could you explain the situation to the king?" Ming Jiu asked, leaving the man fuming at the rejection, and stepped in to restrain him, saying, "He's just curious. Our mission is more important. Let's go, Long AI." Long AI grunted in response and led his men inside. Carrying the suitcase, he didn't forget to turn back and instruct him. "Li Sheng, wait patiently for my return," to which the boy nodded and replied, "Yes, father." Watching Ming Jiu's retreating figure, Li Sheng slumped and whispered to Li Ya that she must take care of herself while he was away. As they vanished into the swirling portal, a strange object suddenly streaked over Li Sheng's head, catching his attention. The object grew larger, its blurry shape impossible to identify. Li Sheng's eyes widened and his jaw dropped in shock as he wondered what it was. The scene then shifted back inside the gate. They marched forward in a steady rhythm, while Long Eye's men gossiped behind them, wondering how many years it would take for new life to emerge once this life egg was reset. True, but hasn't the king been trying to breed on the colonial stars lately? There's been no success yet. Moments later, they reached the final gate, and Xiao Nen noted they had finally crossed the interior of the wall. Through this exit, we'll reach the outside of the wall, Xiao Lun said with a sigh of relief, glad that everyone could leave safely. He hurried out, but Ming Jiu followed close behind, his face filled with disbelief. This is impossible, it can't be, he shouted, scanning the surroundings. Why aren't we outside the wall? Suddenly, a man appeared before the group. Welcome to the core sector of the iOS life creation system. Seeing their stunned expressions, Ming Jiu let out a cold laugh. Now please enjoy the feast prepared for you all. Long Eye's men rushed out of the gate, and as soon as Long AI emerged, he roared, "What is the meaning of this, Ming Jiu? We've been forcibly brought into the central domain," he stammered. Horrified, the man gasped. "What?" Ming Jiu opened his third eye and smirked. "Invaders from the outside, I invite you to enjoy this grand feast of slaughter." He shuddered, cold sweat pouring down as he repeated the words. Long AI regained his composure and sneered, "What feast? You should be the first to die." As soon as he spoke, he spread his wings and lunged forward to attack. However, Long Eye's move was suddenly deflected. His eyes widened in shock as he realized his own attack had been reflected back at him. Vent stepped forward, pointing in horror at Long AI. "Your wings, they're melting." Terrified, the man looked back only to find that his wings had already vanished. Long AI clutched his body and screamed. Ming Jiu watched his agony with amusement, remarking that the pain response of outsiders like them was truly delayed. "Rest assured, I am not your opponent," he said, leaving them confused. "But so you can truly understand your situation, the feast will begin in 15 minutes. Xiao Lun stood silently, observing the scene. 15 minutes. Ming Jiu paused and gave a dangerous smile. Of course, this feast isn't limited to this place. It is officially beginning throughout the entire life creation system. Both he and the creature were stunned to hear that they intended to slaughter every living being within the life egg. Seeing them frozen, he shouted, "Don't just stand there. Everyone make good use of these 15 minutes. Run or hide as you wish." Vent supported Long Eye's body and spoke. "Ming Jiu, the entrance can surely be reconstructed, right?" He slowly turned with a somber expression. "Do you really think that's possible in front of the monsters of the central domain? Is that even a possibility?" Ming Jiu's words left the two of them stunned. Hearing this, the man smiled with satisfaction. "Ming Jiu, you seem to have grown much wiser this time." Their eyes widened. "What Ming Jiu, do you know him?" Ming Jiu remained silent, merely bowing his head. Losing his patience, the man interrupted them. "Fine, I won't waste any more of your time. Use these 15 minutes wisely. I shall watch this grand feast unfold until we meet again." With that, Ming Jiu vanished, but not before leaving a final reminder. "Actually, you'll have to stay alive to meet again, won't you?" He vanished completely, leaving only the sound of laughter echoing in his ears as he trembled, gritting his teeth and cursing. "Damn it, how did it come to this?" Long AI panicked and asked, "Ming Jiu, what on earth is going on? Have you been to the central region?" He didn't answer the question, only saying, "Look out for yourself." "My lords!" In a fit of rage, he clenched his fists and roared, "You! What did you say?" Rent looked around and said, "Ignore him, don't we have the gloves? Let's create our own entrance and exit." Hearing this, Long AI turned to leave. "Right, let's go." Ming Jiu remained standing there motionless. His group quickly entered and ran back, ignoring the others who were fleeing. Even though Yu had turned into an egg, he spoke up. "Dai, you must have seen the red-skinned man kill your mother, right?" He widened his eyes in shock and disbelief, saying, "What? Zero, what are you talking about?" He offered his deduction. "Xiao Lun lied to you. That red-skinned man is named Long AI, one of those 7, but Dai still refused to believe it. "Don't you dare try to drive a wedge between us. You're a fake Dong Nan. You're a clone, aren't you?" Hearing that, Yu laughed sarcastically. "No wonder there was such a strange sense of distance on this journey. However, it seems you're mistaken." He finally revealed the secret he had been hiding. "I'm just a parasite in the clone's head. I am still Zero." He frowned and gaped, asking, "What? You mean Dong Nan is a clone?" Yu nodded, having noticed it earlier. "Yes, I've been searching for clones to parasite their brains. I'll use anyone connected to them." On Ming Cairo's side, he ran as fast as the wind, staying close by. Suddenly, the black egg on his head turned pitch black. It cried out in panic, but no one answered. "Xiao Nen, what should I do? I can't move. Are we trapped? Xiao Nen. Answer me, Xiao Nen." Xiao Lun stood motionless, unresponsive. The controlled crowd also stood still. The egg on his head began to glow. Soon after, Dai returned to his original form. Seeing him rush off, Yu called out, "Dai, why the hurry? That person hasn't gone far yet." Dai didn't care. "Forget him. I need to ask Xiao Lun what's really going on. Did he lie to me?" Seeing this, Yu also transformed back and asked doubtfully, lied to you. He didn't listen further and rushed through the gate. As soon as he stepped out, he saw Gu Jai approaching. Zio Lun, what's wrong with you? Seeing the two of them, it joyfully recounted the situation. Dai, Gu Jai, Zio Nen isn't responding anymore? He asked. What exactly happened? The black egg explained that Zio Nen tried to steal the container from the Eggman's clone, but before he could touch it, he ended up like this, completely unresponsive. Her expression changed drastically upon hearing this. Let's not discuss this here. We need to leave first. Dai then picked him up and ran toward the gate, looking ahead. His eyes suddenly regained their spirit as he glanced around, and Yan immediately began to run. He quickly reached the gate and stepped through without hesitation. Yan looked around at the deserted area. The ecology here is changing every moment. It's completely different from when we first arrived. It tilted its head and asked uncertainly, "Are you sure?" He replied, "Tao Lu, can you pinpoint the location?" It then began to explain the situation to Yan. "As long as young Master Long Ming's corpse remains, I can find it." He nodded in understanding. "Good. We must find his body, reclaim the core, and leave this life egg to return to our world." Tao Lu immediately scanned the area and moved out. "Yan, this way?" He nodded and followed. The scene shifted to a gloomy forest where the group hid in a hollow tree as Dai frowned while checking Zio Lun's body. Strange. The external influence has dissipated, so why is Zio Lun still catatonic? The black egg muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm clearly fine. Why is Zio Nen still like this?" Suddenly, she stepped forward and grabbed his wrist. He watched her actions with suspicion. "Gu Jai, what are you doing?" Without a word, she cut a wound into Zio Lun's hand. Blood flowed, but he didn't cry out. He couldn't even feel the pain. Dai angrily shoved Gu Jai's hand away. He clenched his fists and cursed at her. "You wretched woman, you hurt him again." Gu Jai ignored him and said, "The situation is dire. His life may be in danger." Dai didn't feel any regret and shouted even louder, "That's still no reason to wound him." Yu, keeping watch from a corner, turned to him. "Dai, this isn't the time for a temper tantrum." He gritted his teeth and cut her off. "You're just worried he'll be a burden, right? Fine, I will take him. Follow if you wish." She frowned. "What burden? I don't see it that way." Seeing the two refuse to be silent, he shouted, "Enough, is this the time for bickering?" Gu Jai stood up and looked Dai in the eye. "Let me be clear. If my life is in danger, I will only look out for myself." He knit his brows and gave a cold snort, then suddenly warned with a worried look, "There is movement outside, stay quiet." All three grew tense as they peered into the distance, hearing the sound of iron chains clanking together. A dark egg appeared within their sight, dragging a coffin behind it. That is the end of the video. If you liked it, please hit the like button to support the channel. Thank you and goodbye, everyone.